Hey everybody, welcome to Gathering Information. I am Step.
I am Tams.
And... Salem missed his cue. Well, I'm sure we'll be hearing from DraftCat later. We are here to review some cards. This is the set review for Amonkhet.
I can't believe we're here already.
Yeah, I know.
It's exciting.
Well, this past week there have been... there you are. There have been a lot of spoilers happening, and finally today the set has gone up. So we are... here, Gathering Information, formerly Card Advantage MTG, to bring you our thoughts on what Amonkhet is going to be like, both in draft and in sealed. We might give a few hints about what we think for standard, although that's not really what we do. And definitely I'll be talking about Commander or other kooky formats that I might think of a card for. Tams, do you have anything to...
I'm here because I'm excited that there's a bunch of cards I've seen already that on the surface seem kind of bad, which makes me excited because I love to find kooky ways to make a card work.
If you listen to our podcast, The Knowledge Pool, available on iTunes and wherever else you find good podcasts, you will have heard that Tams considers herself more of a spike than anything else. And, I don't know.
I have a little bit of the brewer in me, though.
You have a little bit of the Johnny in you.
I do.
I know I want to consider myself a Johnny, but I'm more of a Timmy Spike, so...
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting.
Whatever. We will dive right in. Oh, before we dive right in, we should say that this is the creature review. We are going to do this in 2 to 4 parts, depending on how much we have to talk about. But the first part is definitely just going to be all of the creatures. And the reason we have decided to go with the creatures first is because for limited play, creatures are the most important, and creatures give context to the other spells. Usually build-arounds need creatures to function. Usually removal is better or worse depending on the size of the creatures. So we like to start with the creatures and take a particular focus on the commons and uncommons. The rares might be splashier, but the commons are what you're going to see more of.
For sure.
Anything else you want to add?
Nope, I think that covers it all.
All right.
Let's jump in.
All right. Well, before we dive right into the cards, there are a few mechanical things that we should talk about. So let's start with the, what is it called? A punch card?
Punch card.
All right. We have the punch card for the Amonkhet tokens. This is a new thing that Wizards is adding. It'll take the spot of a token or an ad card. And basically, it's got little perforations that you can punch these things out and put them on your cards. We have 2 new mechanics and 2 spins on old tools that are returning. So let's talk about Embalmed first off. Embalm is a, quote, white ability. I say it's a white ability because it makes white creatures. Creatures with Embalm, you can pay a price when they're in your graveyard and exile it from your graveyard to make a token copy of whatever the creature is. You'll see that they have a separate token for each of these Embalm creatures, and I believe they should be in the pack with their the creature that they're
Aping.
That might not be true, though, because it hasn't been true in the past necessarily, and random order.
Yeah, you might get a Gideon emblem in a pack and no Gideon.
Next, we have Exerted. This is the punch card piece that I think is going to be most useful, because Exertion is a new mechanic whereby when a creature that can be exerted attacks, you can exert it to do something. So deal damage to your opponent, pump its stats, pump the rest of your team. One of these value things. But what happens with an exerted creature is it doesn't untap on its controller's next untap step.
Because it went above and beyond what it was normally going to do, and it's tired now.
Right.
Yes.
It's like a barbarian rage.
Now, let me ask you this question, because it's going to become very relevant later. Is there another way to, if you can find something to untap your creature, does that mean you get to use it again the next turn?
Absolutely. It just doesn't untap normally on the untap step, but it can be untapped. If it didn't tap when it became exerted, it will not untap, but it'll already be untapped, so it won't matter. And the exerted... I don't even know what you call this, token? Counter? Goes away during the untap step. So instead of untapping it, you take the exertion away, and then it'll untap normally on the next turn.
So this would be really sweet with Vigilance.
Oh, yes. And we'll be getting to some of that when we get into the set. The other two things that you see on the card are -1/-1. This is a -1/-1 counter. The flagship counter of Magic is +1/+1. We see that in set after set after set. This is the inverse of it. This is the opposite. -1/-1 counters decrease the power and toughness of a creature by 1 each. They do not stack with +1 counters, so if you have a +1/+1 counter on a creature and you add a -1/-1 counter, you take both away. They cancel each other out. Usually, Wizards doesn't do +1 counters and -1 counters in the same set or block, so we will not be seeing +1 counters in this set. We will be seeing lots of -1 counters. The other thing on the card is you can see it looks like a brick. These are brick counters. That's literally what they're called. And we'll see there are a few cards which make use of brick counters. These are just like any other flavor counter. We've had charge counters in numerous sets. We've had verse counters and fading counters and whatever. Brick counters are just what they have decided to call the counters for Amonkhet.
So you accumulate them for some reason.
Yeah.
And whatever. Okay.
Anything you want to... Nope.
Nope, that's pretty good.
All right, let's move right into the first creature. Angel of Sanctions. We have a mythic angel.
Male angel.
Yes, this is the first male angel in Magic, and I didn't realize that when I first saw it. I did not realize there weren't any male angels.
That's pretty cool.
But I think he looks sweet. He looks very regal flying there. 3 white for a 3/4 with flying. And when he enters the battlefield, you may exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Angel of Sanctions leaves the battlefield.
Ooh.
So this is the Banisher Priest, Oblivion Ring, Fiend Hunter ability, the revised Fiend Hunter ability. You get to exile something until. This is generally pretty sweet.
Already, I am absolutely sold. This seems really good.
At 5 mana.
A 3/4 for 5 flyer is good. And then you
And an
use
O-ring
it,
for 5 is not bad.
but it doesn't stop there. There's more.
No. So if they happen to kill this, or if you want to sacrifice it for some reason, or if you just mill it into your graveyard, you can embalm it. So its embalm cost is 5 and a white, and you get a token copy. You exile it, and you bring this guy into play, and he does exactly the same thing. So 3/4 with flying, and exile something until this token leaves the battlefield.
Yeah. The only difference being that he does not have embalm himself.
Right. And he's a token, so if tokens matter, if you're running, say, a commander deck with...
Sever the Bloodline or something like that?
No. What am I thinking of?
I don't know.
Intangible Virtue.
Oh, yeah.
That works with the tokens, but not the originals.
Fair enough.
I really like this guy. I think he's definitely a first pick out of any pack that might have it. I think it's just super sweet. It's very valuable.
Absolutely.
3/4 flyer for 5 with double white is already not bad, and then it's just loads of value. So, next we have Anointer Priest. 1 and a white for a 1/3 human cleric at common. Whenever a creature token enters the battlefield under you control, you gain 1 life. So we have already a sense that white cares about tokens. And since the Embalm ability is generally white, that makes sense. This lady also has Embalm. 3 and a white, which is 2 more than the original cost. That seems to be, well, so far it was a 5-drop that embalmed for 7, and we've got a 2-drop that embalms for 4. So we'll see that as a general rule. I don't think they're all 2 more, but we'll see as we go along.
And my thinking is that this is a fine place to do your later game mana sinking. You have a bunch of stuff in the graveyard, and you have extra mana to play with, and hey, let's bring this guy back. Now this creature in and of itself, it's a 1/3, so it has a decent sized butt. And we've discovered from Modern Masters that incidental life gain can be a giant pain in the butt.
Yeah, although this isn't as good as just like anytime you play a creature.
No, because it's only tokens. But I could see it being, you know, I need a few more creatures to fill out my sweet, sweet token deck. This seems like a fine ground creature. It's got a fairly sizable bum.
If I'm in the token deck, I would value these more highly. I'm not
For sure.
I'm not crazy about a 1/3 for 2. I'd prefer a 3/1 for 2, but that's not what this card is about.
No, this seems to belong in the token or flyer kind of deck where you want to kind of have bigger bums on the ground to shore up your turn.
I figure this is a mid to late pack pickup, and I'm probably going to be happy if I'm in the deck or if I just need creatures.
Yeah.
And
That's
it also has the Embalm.
They each get their own token.
Yeah, they each have their own token, and you'll notice that the art is keyed the same. It's the same scene, but in a slightly different
As a token
focus.
collector, I am giving them 2 thumbs up for this.
All right, next up we have Aven Mind Sensor.
Oh, nice art.
2 and a white for a 2/1 flash flyer. Bird Wizard at rare.
Sold.
I believe this is a reprint. I don't know what from, though. If an opponent would search a library, that player searches the top 4 cards of that library instead.
Ooh.
So this hoses a whole bunch of constructed decks. I haven't seen how much searching the library is going on in this set. There are a couple of search for a basic land cards in green, but we'll see as we go along. Either way, a 2/1 for 3 with flying is okay. Flash makes it good, and then this ability, if it's relevant, makes it great. All in all, I'd say this is probably first to third. It seems really good. It's not a high bar at a single white mana, and flyers are valuable.
Absolutely.
Next we have Binding Mummy. Ooh. Binding Mummy is our first bear. 1 and a white for a 2/2 zombie. At common, whenever another zombie enters the battlefield under your control, you may tap target artifact or creature.
And as we go along, you're going to see that this is really, really relevant in a large chunk of the set. There are a lot of zombies flying around. I think this is going to be a fairly decent pickup in a lot of different decks.
There are zombies outside of black and white, but mostly they're in black and white, and it's strange seeing white zombies, but that's what the Embalmed are. So black-white zombie tribal is definitely going to be a deck, and a 2/2 for 2 at common will fit right into that.
Especially with this pretty nice little added
bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say this is probably better than Tapcat, the Ereskos
Swiftclaw? Yeah.
Not Sun Guide, not Swiftclaw. Everyone knows what it is.
Tapcat?
Tapcat. I also really like the mummy binding people with its own wrappings trope that you see from, zombie or mummy movies.
The art's really cool.
It's really cool. All right, Devoted Crop Mate. 2 and a white for a 3/2 creature human warrior at uncommon, you may exert, here we go, Devoted Cropmate as it attacks. When you do, return target creature card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Now this is a 3-drop, so you won't be able to chain them together or anything. But we already saw a 2-drop, the Binding Mummy, that would be worth returning.
Mm-hmm.
And it returns to the battlefield, not just to your hand or anything. At a 3/2, this might be going into combat to just die anyway, so exerting it wouldn't matter, and it would probably trade with something valuable. I quite like this. 3/2 is better than 2/3 for 3, I think. So it looks like white so far seems to be on the aggressive side.
It's pretty neat.
I mean, there have been some control cards, but like keeping the field clear and bashing in is what I think of as aggressive. Fan Bearer.
Not to be confused with a fan bear.
Is white for a 1/2 zombie. Should we be keeping a zombie count?
Maybe.
It's a common, and you can pay 2 and tap it to tap target creature. Now, 2 and tapping it seems steep compared to, pay 1 and tap it tappers. But we just had, what was it? Not Prism Array. The artifact in Aether Revolt.
Oh, yeah. That was annoying.
Pacification Array. Haha, got there. And that was 2 and tap, and it saw a lot of play, especially in Limited. I think this is going to be quite similar, and it's also got, power and toughness, and it's a zombie to boot. I think this card is going to be a mid-pack pickup for any white deck, and they're going to be very happy to have one. It might even be first to third in very weak packs, although
you would hope not.
You'd hope not. Gideon of the Trials.
Interesting. A planeswalker in the
creature review? Yeah, we're going to handle Gideon in the non-creature review as well, but I want to put him here just to show off his first 0 ability. Gideon of the Trials is 1 white, and he's basically a 4/4 indestructible creature. Yes, he does other stuff. We'll be getting to that in tomorrow's review. But on the attacks, he is a 4/4 indestructible who prevent all damage that would be dealt to him, whatever. He's indestructible.
Yeah, and for those of you listening but not watching, he comes down with 3 loyalty.
Are we going to put this up in audio too?
Well, some people put stuff like this on and then walk away and just listen.
Fair enough. So he's bonkers, nuts, insane, and we'll get to the rest of what he does tomorrow, but I wanted to put him here because a 4/4 for 3 is very strong and something to be aware of. He is a mythic, so whatever.
Yeah,
so move along.
He's going to be messing with Standard, I'm sure.
Yeah. More on that tomorrow. Glorybound Initiate. 1 and a white for a 3/1 human warrior at rare. You may exert Glorybound Initiate as it attacks. When you do, it gets +1/+3 and gains lifelink until end of turn.
Oh, that seems really sweet.
This is another first pickable white rare. As far as I'm concerned, white is looking very strong. I like 3/1s for 2 a lot. They out aggro control decks very well, and then they block really well if you're heading on into the late game. They're strictly more useful than a 2/2 in most situations. The fact that this one can become a 4/4 every other turn
with lifelink,
is very strong. Especially when we get to the green review and we talk about multicolored decks, because there's a god that might make use of things like this. All right, moving on. Oh, did you want to?
Nope.
Okay. Gust Walker. We've had some pretty strong tribal elements so far. I've seen humans, I've seen zombies, and there was one angel. But humans and zombies in white. Gust Walker is 1 and a white for a 2/2 at common. Human wizard. I suppose you could say warrior and wizard tribal could be a thing too. You may exert Gust Walker as it attacks. When you do, it gets +1/+1 and gains flying until end of turn.
Ooh.
So a 3/3 flyer for 2 every other turn?
Yep. Seems good.
We need something to give all our creatures vigilance.
Yep.
This is just... all of these look good so far. There's nothing wrong with a bear. And then all of this upside. Oketra the True.
Oh, our first god.
Our first god. 3 and a white for a 3/6. How do you feel about a 3/6?
I feel fine about a 3/6.
How would you feel about a 3/6 with double strike?
I would be fine with that.
So she's ostensibly a 6/6. She's a 3/6 with double strike and indestructible, but she can't attack or block unless you control at least 3 other creatures. Well, we've seen a lot of valuable creatures so far. I don't think that white's going to have any trouble dropping creatures.
This is where you don't feel bad about running out all those bears.
Yeah. And if you do have trouble getting creatures, well, she makes creatures. For 3 and a white, which is her casting cost, create a 1/1 white warrior creature token with vigilance.
Seems good.
I think this is probably one of the best of the gods. We might actually talk about that in a separate review. We haven't decided whether we're going to do the flavor review immediately or later, but yeah, this is, I think, first pickable. Oketra's Attendant. Here's another bonkers, nuts, insane card. Oketra's Attendant is 3 white for an uncommon 3/3 bird soldier. It's got flying. A 3/3 flyer for 5 is fine.
Yep.
It's got Embalm, 3 white.
Wow.
Which is exactly its casting cost. And the kicker here is it's got cycling.
Oh, so explain what that means for those who don't.
So cycling is another returning mechanic to the set. We probably should have said something in the preamble. But cycling means you can pay the cycling cost and discard this card to draw a card. So if, for some reason, the card in your hand isn't what you need, you can pitch it and draw a new one, and hopefully get what you need. Now, at 3 white, that's a mana cost that is not difficult to get to, but maybe you don't have your second white. Maybe it's turn 2 and you want something to do. You can tap 2 and pitch this to draw a card, hopefully another land or a cheap removal spell or whatever. And then the real value here is with the Embalm, you can cast this later.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And get exactly the same thing. So I see myself cycling this quite often. So let's move along to Regal Caracal.
Ooh,
3 white, another 5-drop for a 3/3, another 3/3. Except it's not really a 3/3. It's a cat, and other cats you control get +1/+1 and have lifelink. When it enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink.
Oh, so the 3/3 comes down with 2 essentially 2/2s.
Yeah,
as
so
long as
you're
they don't
getting
take care of that.
7 power and toughness for 5 mana.
With lifelink.
Seems good. I have not seen a rare yet that has been bad. Of course, we've only been seeing the creature rares. So...
Although, to be clear, this cat doesn't have lifelink, just its other friends.
That is true. This is just a 3/3.
But, oh well.
Yeah.
Just a 3/3 who comes
just a
down with
3/3 for 5.
friends.
It can't be that good, right?
So more strong creatures in white.
Now, it gives other cats you control lifelink, but the cats that it makes, the 1/1 white cat tokens, have lifelink naturally, so even if this dies, those cats will be 1/1s with lifelink, which is not nothing, especially when they're just bonus tokens.
Yep.
If you get to untap with this, though, you can swing in with your 2/2 lifelink cats, and even if you want to hold this back for some reason, that's still quite the swing. So, again, I really, really like it.
And it's going to be interesting to see as we go along how relevant the cat type is going to be. I'm fairly certain, given that it's an Egyptian set, we're going to see more.
Ret Crop Spearmaster. So, well, we'll get to flavor when we do our flavor review. Ret Crop Spearmaster is 2 and a white for a 3/1.
At common?
At common. It's a human warrior, and you can exert it to give it +1/+0 and first strike. So it can attack every other turn as a 4-power first striker.
Wow.
Seems decent. Normally I don't like 3/1s for 3. I prefer, 3/1s for 2, or 3/2s for 3 are okay. 3/1s for 3 are kind of meh. But a 4-power first striker for 3 is great. That's perfectly fine. And again, we need to look for something that grants vigilance. Sacred Cat.
Haha, here's our next cat type.
This is the 1/1 with lifelink for white. So 1/1s for 1 are typically not good, but this one has Embalm, which gets you the cat creature token.
And if you're lucky enough to pick up the other cat, that gives other cats +1/+1.
So this card I probably wouldn't run. It would be my 23rd card. It would be my 23rd, 24th card. But if I happen to have the Cat Lord, I would scoop as many of these up as I could.
Absolutely.
And I would be... It would be the deck, right? Like,
it seems like the thing to do.
It would be a bad deck if my rare cat got killed, but...
Well, then you hope that you have some sort of other synergy going on.
Yeah. Anyway, it's not great, but it definitely looks fun.
Yeah, the art's beautiful.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a 1/1 with lifelink, and then another 1/1 with lifelink for the same card.
So basically you're getting
spread out.
2 1/1s with lifelink for
2, but they're spread out instead of both at once. So,
I guess we'll see how it runs.
Yeah. Next, Seraph of the Suns. We have another angel, and it's another dude. Seraph of the Suns is 5 white. There seems to be a lot of double white casting costs in the bigger creatures. It's an angel at uncommon. It's a 4/4, flying indestructible.
Oh.
Now, indestructible in this set might not be what it is in other sets, because while it it says right there in the reminder text, damage and destroy effects can't destroy this creature, but if its toughness is brought below 0, it still dies. And there's a lot of -1/-1 counters running around. We haven't seen any yet. They're not typically in white. They'll be in green and black.
Yep.
And maybe red.
You can also use effects like O-ring type effects on them to exile.
Because that doesn't destroy. Exile is not destroy, so they can still be gone that way. But that's just something to note. That's notes for the gods as well.
Yeah. And for me, I mean, this looks great on paper, but it's going to take seeing how fast the format is before we realize whether 7 is too much to get to, but I have a feeling...
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll be able to get to 7, but even if we do, this is not the 7-drop I really want. Sure, it's a 4-power flyer, and it blocks really well, but it's a little small for what I really want out of my 7-drop. You know?
Okay. I think I would probably happily take it, but we'll see how it is in practice.
Okay. Next we have Sparring Mummy. 3 and a white for a 3/3 zombie at common. When Sparring Mummy enters the battlefield, untap target creature. So if you... was there a 2-drop that exerted? I know there's a 3-drop that exerted. So if you play the 3-drop, on 4 you can attack and exert it. We just had the one, I can't remember. The 4 power first striker. Post combat, you can drop this thing and untap that creature. So it will have exerted itself, but it is sort of giving it pseudo-vigilance. And that happens all the way along.
Which is really cool.
So this is something to play post-combat after you've exerted something. And a 3/3 for 4 on its own is still not a bad rate. So I don't mind that at all.
Yep.
Supply Caravan. 4 and a white for a camel at common. A 3/5 for 5 is fairly typical mediocre creature, but when Supply Caravan enters the battlefield, if you control a tapped creature, which you probably will if you've attacked, create a 1/1 white warrior creature token with vigilance. So that's fine. I would hope to get the warrior. Like a 3/5 for 5 is, I mean, that's a 23rd card. You can play it if you need a 5-drop. If it comes with a 1/1, that starts being quite a bit better. We haven't seen any warrior synergy yet, but we'll see. Next, Ta Crop Elite is 3 and a white for a 2/2 bird warrior with flying. Birds, I think, generally have flying. There have been very few. Bronzebeak Moa from Ravnica didn't have flying, but they try not to make birds that don't fly anymore.
Which is good.
So this also has exert. When you exert Ta Crop Elite, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. This is the effect I like to see on a flyer, something with evasion, because you want to be able to swing with this and not worry about it dying, because you want to do this consistently. A 2/2 for 4 is not great. I mean, it's typical when you have a good effect. With flying, it's a little better, and then with this ability, I think this is quite powerful, especially at common. You might be able to pick up a couple of these and then roll them one into the other, so that you always have one untapped. I think this is a fine card. I'd pick it up mid-pack.
Yeah.
Next, we have Those Who Serve. This is a flavor card for sure. It is a 2/4 zombie for 3. There's something missing here.
What's that?
Reach is missing here. This is not a giant spider.
No.
Although I think giant spiders cost 4, so maybe I'm mistaken. Yeah, 2/4. It's better than average rate, but it's just sort of an okay.
I think what might make it relevant is the fact that it's a zombie.
The fact that it's a zombie, yeah. It is quite the butt. 4 toughness is enough to hopefully be swinging with it and having it survive. So there's a zombie lord in black. There's other zombie synergy that we have yet to see. I think this will be it'll be fun. Next we have True Heart Duelist. She lost some teeth in the Amonkhet trailer. She is another bear, 1 and a white for a 2/2 human warrior at uncommon. True Heart Duelist can block an additional creature each combat, and you see that because she's wielding 2 funky swords. Well, 1 regular sword and a funky sword. She also has Embalm for 2 and a white, so she's a 2/2 on turn 2, and then she's a 2/2 whenever you want it out of the graveyard. seems fine. I like bears a lot, and bears that have value like this, perfectly fine. Also, all of the embalm creatures are zombies, which might matter, and we'll have to see about the human and the warrior. Unwavering Initiate, 2 and a white for a 3/2 with Vigilance. Vigilance isn't terribly impressive on something with 2 toughness for me. I mean, it's fine. This is another mediocre 3/2, which I would be fine to have in my deck. It's not a bad card. It's not a great card. But it does have Embalm. The Embalm for 4 and a white, so 5. So it's kind of like you get 2 of them.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's kind of filler if you need filler.
We haven't seen anything egregiously bad. Like, even the cat seems okay. The 1/1. So, yeah. Looks pretty good. Vizier of Deferment. 2 and a white for a 2/2 human cleric at uncommon. It has Flash.
Ooh.
So that's...
I do like Flash.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. I like things with Flash. They have a little bit extra value. 2/2s with Flash are not as good as like 2/3s, 2/4s, 2/5s, you know, something that would survive a surprise block. But when Vizier of Deferment enters the battlefield, you may exile target creature if it attacked or blocked this turn. Return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So that makes all the difference.
That's pretty cool.
This is a creature who can act as a combat trick. It can act as a removal spell if your opponent is double blocking something. It can act to save your creature if you ran an attack or a block that went south. It can function as combat trick removal.
It's pretty neat.
It can just be a surprise end of turn body that you're untapping with that your opponent didn't expect. So that clause it is worth quite a bit. I'd say this is going to be a solid high pick. Vizier of Remedies. 1 and a white for a 2/1 human cleric. The Viziers seem to be clerics. At uncommon, if one or more -1/-1 counters would be put on a creature you control, that many -1/-1 counters -1 are put on it instead. Alright, that's a little confusing, but basically it's the opposite of adding another +1/+1 counter. You know, it adds one less -1/-1 counter. And this is going to be relevant because in green-white especially, you're going to be, or I guess green or white-black too, you're going to be putting -1 counters on your stuff as a cost for powerful things entering the battlefield. So this will mitigate some of those costs, and it means that your opponent's -1 counters targeting your stuff are a little less effective.
So if your opponent has a card that says target creature gets -1/-1 till end of turn and she's on the field, it just...
No, it's only the -1 counters.
Okay.
So things like -1 until end of turn don't count, but place X -1/-1 counters on target creature do count.
I thought that was an important
distinction
to make.
Yeah, that's good. She is fragile as a 2/1, but that means that if they're going to deal with her with a -1 counter, they can't. Like, there's a land that you can sack to put a -1 counter on target creature. That wouldn't work for this, but any shock or better removal will. So she's fine. She's a piker with an upside, so that's fine. Mid to late pack pick. I think this is our last white creature. Winged Shepherd, another male angel. Interesting. They're going male with the angels in Amonkhet. Winged Shepherd is 5 and a white for a 3/3 angel at common. It's got flying, it's got vigilance. That seems fine, if a little slow, but it's got cycling for a single white. 3/3 flyers for 6, even 4/4 flyers for 6 generally aren't a very good rate. This one has vigilance, which is cool, but what really makes it a contender for the deck is the fact that you can cycle it. You usually don't want to have your 6-drop in your opening hand.
Yeah.
But with this one, you could just pitch it and get something you need. So that makes me a little less hesitant to add this as my 23rd card. And a 3/3 flyer is a reasonable finisher in any deck that'll use it. It's the evasion that makes it good. The fact that you can pitch this one if you can't play it yet means that it'll probably see a little more play than something like a Goldforged Sentinel from Theros or any of those other things. Still not a high pick, but something that I will probably run once or twice. We'll see. All right. With that, we're going to move on to blue.
All right, let's move ahead to the blue creatures.
Sweet.
We start off with Ancient Crab.
We've seen this guy around.
Yes.
Or gal, I guess. It's Shelly. Shelly's back.
It's 1 blue for a creature crab at common, and it is a 1/5.
It sure is.
It's pretty much everything you expect to see in your crab.
I like that it will... It's not a defender, so it'll block. Or so it'll attack. It is a pretty good defender, though, with 1 power. And in this set, there's a lot in green, especially in black, of putting -1/-1 counters on your creatures. So this might be a good sync for that if you don't want to put them on the things that they come with.
Yeah, I think that's actually really good.
So if it's an O2, it still, blocks or whatever. But that means that the other creatures don't have all of the downside when they enter.
Yeah, you can keep your better attacking creatures for that, and
yeah, so that's something to think about when you're picking your late pick. Like, this will go fairly late. You'll pick it up on the wheel or whatever.
For sure. All right, Angler Drake is 4 blue for a creature drake. It is at uncommon, and it's a 4/4 flyer. And there's some text here. When Angler Drake enters the battlefield, you may return target creature to its owner's hand.
So this is like the big brother of the, what is it, Mistraven? From, Modern Masters, most recently. I think it was from Innistrad, originally. A bouncer in blue is pretty cool. 6 mana. What do you think of 6 mana for a 4/4 flyer?
It's okay.
With this ability.
It's pretty good. Bear in mind that my responses are always going to be coming from assuming we get to 6 mana and the format's just not so fast that we can't cast anything beyond a 4-drop. So I'm assuming it's going to be castable. So the effect is really good.
Yeah, and a bouncer might be better in this set, and like we were just talking about, putting -1/-1 counters on your stuff. You can bounce your own creature to cast it again without the counters. Or you can bounce your opponent's creature to get it out of the way for a turn, or just so that it's has to come back down and be summoning sick, or there are value. The tempo is a lot better if it's an earlier drop, but this has its place.
Aven Initiate, 3 and a blue for a 3/2 bird warrior flyer. So, by itself, that seems okay-ish.
A 3/2 for 4 is definitely good rate for a flyer.
Sure. And it has Embalm for 6 and blue.
This is interesting. This is an expensive Embalm. It's 3 more than its original mana cost. But considering that you're already getting a fairly decent rate flyer, I think that's okay. I think I would probably run one of these.
Yeah.
And it is at common, so you'll see them around.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Oh, and the Embalm. So, yeah.
So that's the token for it?
That's
Super
pretty
nice.
cool. I like how the embalmed wings, they seem to like pluck the feathers, but they give it wrappings. You know, I'm not sure how useful those are for actually flying on.
Fair enough. Cryptic Serpent. 5 blue for a 6/5 serpent at uncommon. Cryptic Serpent costs 1 colorless less to cast for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard.
This is the first of the instant and sorcery matters cards that we'll see. There are a couple more in red and blue.
So we're thinking that red blue spells matters is going to be a thing?
I think so.
Art, wow.
Is very vivid.
Oh, the serpent's beautiful.
This is a lot like what blue usually gets as a serpent. There was the Gear Seeker serpent in Kaladesh that was very decent. Of course, it also had the unblockable ability for 6 mana. But I think if you're running, counterburn, this could be a fine finisher. Get things out of the way and then swing in with the 6/5. It's not something I'd look to pick up highly, though.
Well, here's what I'm thinking. If you're running a blue-heavy, blue-white deck and you drop your...
Blue-white?
Blue-red. And you drop your crab, who's got this big 5 butt, and then you're just basically casting spells, some card draw, a little removal. By turn 4 or 5, you can drop this 6/5 for cheaps.
Okay, so to cast it on turn 4, you will need to have cast 3 instants and sorceries, which is 1 per turn up until that point.
It's possible.
Turn 5... That's still 2 or 3. I could see getting this down on 5, and it would probably be pretty good on 5. On 4, it would be amazing.
Bonkers.
But
we'll have to see how expensive, like what your curve is going to look like for spells when we get deeper into...
Need to see how good the cheap spells are.
So, he still looks pretty neat. Curator of Mysteries. 2 blue for a 4/4 Sphinx at rare. It has flying, and it says, whenever you cycle or discard another card, scry 1, and it cycles for 1 blue.
So this is one of the cards that I would want to keep in hand and not cycle if I could help it, because it seems pretty
It's just
sweet.
really strong. A 4/4 for 4.
With flying? Yeah, and then whenever you cycle or discard another card, you scry. There's enough cycling that this is going to be relevant, and there's at least 1 looter, so discarding to draw it is...
If it weren't for the double blue, I'd say it was even undercosted at rare. But the double blue, okay. So, he seems good too. Glyph Keeper. 3 blue for a 5/3 Flying Sphinx at rare. Whenever Glyph Keeper becomes the target of a spell or ability for the first time each turn, counter that spell or ability.
So this is a blue thing that blue gets pretty much at rare. It's happened a few times. It's like quasi-hexproof. It seems real good to me.
But that's not all you get. There is an Embalm for 5 blue.
Yep. I just think this card looks really good. For 5 mana, a 5/3 flyer that can't be messed with easily, and then flashing it back or unearthing it for 7 seems perfectly fine.
Yeah, because if they're looking to remove it with spells, it's going to cost them 2 cards, pretty much, to do anything to it. So...
Yep.
That seems okay.
Well, this can be targeted with like tappers and stuff, and then they use their kill spell.
Fair enough.
Which is, they still have to make that work, right?
Yeah, you're still probably paying for your tapper plus your card, so I still think seems it's pretty good. Heckma Sentinels is 2 and a blue for a 2/3 human cleric at common. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, Heckma Sentinels gets +1/+1 until end of turn.
Okay, so this is a bit like Prowess.
A little bit, yeah.
It's like whenever you cast a spell, but this is whenever you cycle or discard. And we're seeing this theme in blue of cycling and discarding. So they really want you to filter your deck. I wonder how common it is going to be for a blue deck to just mill itself out.
I will laugh.
We're going to find out.
Yeah, but a 2/3 for 3. What do you think of that?
It's an okay rate for a blue creature.
It's fine. Mm-hmm.
And the giving it +1/+1, I mean, you can cycle at instant speed, so that's definitely something to think about.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So yeah.
Interesting.
It's fine. Mm-hmm. Mid-pick.
Mm. Ooh.
Here we have the god.
Kefnet the Mindful for 2 and a blue, so 3 mana for a 5/5 legendary creature god with flying and indestructible.
Wow.
So when I first heard, I said, okay, so give me the downside. Well, there is a downside. Kefnet the Mindful can't attack or block unless you have 7 or more cards in hand.
Wah, wah, wah.
Now, he can help you out. You can pay 3 and a blue to draw a card. Then you may return a land you control to its owner's hand. So he can give you 2 things to your hand, essentially.
It's interesting. It's 1 more than his casting cost, which is, I guess, fine. Drawing a card for 4 is a reasonable rate when you don't have to spend a card on it.
Mm-hmm. Now, for me, I'm not sold on him, only because you have to pay 3 to cast him, so you've already played 3 land. You've probably played other... it seems like it's going to be not as easy to have 7 cards or more in hand than it's going to be to have no cards in hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with you, but it seems like there is a lot of card draw in blue in this set. As we'll see when we get to the non-creature spells.
Mm-hmm. But we're looking at a very exact number.
Well, it just means having a full hand.
Yes, but we haven't seen anything that allows you to keep... to have however many cards you want.
To no hand limit?
Yeah.
No. So it wants you to play with a full hand, which is what blue kind of wants to do. I don't know. We'll see how well... Like, at this point, we know that when Wizards does something like this, they pretty much... they support most of them. You know, like, they're going to want this thing to be played, so...
Is this more of a constructed card, though? Like, in Limited? How is it going to...
I don't know, maybe. I mean, yes, it could definitely see constructed play. But I think you can make it work in Limited.
Maybe. I think he's my least favorite. Mostly because I think you have to work the hardest to get him online.
Yeah.
And also bear in mind, too, that I am not a blue
You're not
player.
a blue player, yeah.
So...
That's fair.
So moving on. Labyrinth Guardian. 1 and a blue for a 2/3 Illusion Warrior. At uncommon, when Labyrinth Guardian becomes the target of a spell, sacrifice it.
That's an interesting clause that I missed the first time I read it. Usually the illusion ability is spell or ability. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, you get what you pay for. With 1 and a blue for a 2/3, that's above rate.
Mm-hmm,
usually you pay like blue for a 2/2, and then whenever it gets targeted with anything, you sacrifice it. Mm-hmm. In this case, it's just spells, and if they have to burn a removal spell or a combat trick on it anyway, that seems decent.
Yeah, they can't use their tapper to kill it.
Plus, it can come back.
Yes, it can. And
so for 3 and a blue, you get another one, which they then have to burn another real spell on, or trade a creature with it or something.
I am very fond of this token. I think it's quite gorgeous.
Yeah, I think I'm quite fond of this card. It seems very aggressive.
Mm-hmm. Seems pretty good. Yeah.
I might first pick it in a weak pack, just because it's, you know, it's good enough. I wouldn't be happy, but it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Naga Oracle, 3 and a blue for a 2/4 Naga Cleric. When Naga Oracle enters the battlefield, put the top 3 cards of your... Oh, look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put any number of them back into your graveyard and the rest on top of your library in any order.
I was reading put too because it's on the very next line.
Yeah,
I
scan thing. Yeah, I read too fast. That's my problem.
Okay, so this is, what was it, Seagate Oracle, basically? Look at the top 3 cards, put any number of them in your graveyard and the rest on top. So you're not drawing a card, but it does filter your top deck, and if you have things that you either don't want to draw or want in your graveyard for whatever reason, this seems fine. Plus, you don't have to mill anything. You just get to look at them and sort them out. So that's all upside.
Seems like it could be a strong utility card. It can do a lot of different things in different decks, so...
I would run 1, maybe 2 of these.
River Serpent, 5 and a blue for a 5/5 serpent at common. River Serpent can't attack unless there are 5 or more cards in your graveyard, and it cycles for blue.
So this is another common blue serpent ability. It can't attack unless you have whatever the thing cares about.
The criteria, yeah.
This one I think is fine because with all the cycling and filtering and looting, you're going to get 5 cards in your graveyard.
Yeah.
And if you have this in your opening hand, being able to pitch it and draw a card for blue is great. That's just really good. I think I would also run 2 of these in my my blue draw all the things deck.
I'd probably run 1, but then again, I'm not a blue player, so to me 2 6-drops seems a little excessive.
Just the ability to cycle it, like
that's true. That is true.
It's not 2 6-drops; it's a 6-drop and a card draw.
True,
right?
True enough.
Like, it's better than having 2 6-drops.
That is true.
You know,
it's a little stronger. Yeah,
so
cycling
I like
is going to be interesting. And next, Scribe of the Mindful.
Oh, check out that art.
I know. 2 and a blue for a 2/2 human cleric at common. 1 colorless, tap and sack the Scribe of the Mindful. Return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand.
All right, so we're going to be very interested tomorrow to see what kind of instant and sorceries there are that you'll be wanting to get back with this.
I'm sure there's going to be lots of spicy stuff.
If it's paired with red, getting back a burn spell or removal spell, or if it's paired with black, same thing, could be really decent. 2/2 for 3 is below rate, but fine. So, especially with this clause, you can block and sack it in response to, or before damage, you know. So, yeah, this seems fine.
Seeker of Insight, 1 and a blue for a human wizard at common, and it's a 1/3. You tap, draw a card, then discard a card. Activate this ability only if you've cast a non-creature spell this turn.
This is interesting. It's a contingent looter. It doesn't just give you the ability to loot, but if you've cast a non-creature spell, so that could be an enchantment, or an instant and sorcery. So, I imagine this pairs really well with the what are they called? Aftermath spells, because you get to cast them once and then cast them again for basically their flashback. So
we haven't gotten there yet. So.
You can hopefully activate this guy more often than not.
We'll talk about those spells when we get to.
As far as 1/3 for 2, that's fine. Yeah, I'd run 1. I might run 2.
Shimmer Scale Drake, 4 and a blue for a 3/4 flying drake, and it has cycling for 2 colorless.
I think this is fantastic for a common.
I love flyers. If I'm going to play blue, it's because I'm going skies.
A 3/3 for 5 at common is generally what you'd expect for a flyer. 3/4 is just a little bigger than that. And then, again, having the ability to cycle this if you can't cast it, or if you've already, got one and don't want another for some reason, that's just real strong. So I would pick this fairly highly.
Slitherblade.
Oh, man.
1 blue for a 1/2, and Slitherblade can't be blocked.
That is a buff snake.
That is a really cool piece of art.
So it's a 1/2, not terribly impressive for one. I mean, it's more impressive than a 1/1 for one.
Mm-hmm. And it's unblockable.
But it's unblockable. So considering there are playable enchantments in this format, I think this looks fairly strong. Again, there seems to be 2 separate blue decks going on.
Yeah.
There's an aggressive and a controlling blue deck, and this one I think goes in the either, because it's a threat that if you can keep the field clear, or if you can keep from taking damage, will deal the damage you need dealt. Very, very slow though.
Yeah, I am going to go out on a limb and guess that if you pair the blue with the white, there's going to be some sort of anthem-y shenanigans going on. There might be some in red, who knows?
Yep, we'll find out.
All right, Tall Crop Skirmisher, 1 and a blue for a 2/1 Naga Warrior with Embalm, 3 and a blue.
Okay, so it's a piker. That's fine. They're less impressive in blue than other colors, because blue tends to care more about having tough things.
Yeah.
But it's fine. And getting the extra casting, the embalmed one, is fine.
Yeah.
Kind of mediocre, but okay.
I'm not particularly enamored, but yeah. Mostly because when I do play blue, my point is to have ground creatures that I'm playing. I want them to have big bums, because I'm usually playing evasion. And
so you want like the crabs and the walls.
The walls, yeah. All right.
Vizier of Many Faces.
2 blue for an 0/0 Shapeshifter Cleric at rare. You may have Vizier of Many Faces enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except if Vizier of Many Faces was embalmed. The token has no mana cost, it's white, and it's a zombie in addition to its other types. And it has an embalm cost of 3 blue. So it's a bit to unpack. So
it's a clone. These are common to Magic, 2 blue, 0/0, pretty much says clone. You know that there's going to be a copy something, usually a creature. In this case, it's just a creature. If you're copying something that was smaller, cast for less, you're getting less. But in this case, copying whatever the best thing on the battlefield is, and then having your Vizier die so that you can then copy something bigger late game seems good. This seems like a really strong clone, and I would think about picking it up very highly, probably first or second pick. And the embalmed creature looks sweet. What do you think?
I like him. I think he's neat. I've noticed that they do mention that the token has no mana cost, so I'm assuming that's in case you run into a CMC Matters kind of thing. So,
like Ratchet Bomb in Eternal formats, things like that.
And it is worth noting, just because it is a thing, that when you get the token, it's a zombie. So
I'm surprised they had room for all of that text. Token, creature, zombie, shapeshifter, cleric.
Yeah. Vizier of Tumbling Sands, 2 and a blue for a 1/3 human cleric.
This is going to have something to do with time, I know it.
This is at uncommon. Tap another target permanent. Oh, no. Untap another target permanent. Let's get that right.
Tap to untap another target permanent.
Cycling 1 and a blue.
Untap.
When you cycle Vizier of Tumbling Sands, untap target permanent.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so this is a 1/3 for 3. Not a great rate, but tapping it to untap another target permanent seems good. Again, with all of the red or white exert stuff. And cycling it for 1 and a blue, so draw a card, untap target permanent. That can be done at instant speed again, so you can untap a blocker, which seems pretty cool. It can be used to untap something that you had exerted with last turn so that you now have enough power to finish them off. I like this card. I think it'll be a mid-pack pickup.
Yeah. Zenith Seeker. This is 3 and a blue for a 2/2 flying bird wizard at uncommon. Now, a 2/2 for 4.
Yeah, we've already said what we feel about 2/2s for 4.
But there's more. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, target creature gains flying until end of turn.
All right, that seems pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And a 2/2 flyer for 4 isn't as bad a rate as like a 2/2 ground thing for 4.
Yeah.
But there seemed to be a lot of cycling even just in the creature cards for blue. Or, you know, if you are looting or whatever. Giving another creature flying could be pretty strong. A lot of the blue creatures that you care about already have flying.
Yeah, so I'm thinking this is probably going to be paired in
with another
green
color.
Or something that doesn't have a lot of...
Yeah.
Pick up a giant fatty and throw them. So, yeah.
So that is the last of the blue cards, or blue creature cards. What do you think of blue?
I don't hate blue, because blue has, in this
so
set...
many flyers.
Has all of the things I like. The card draw and the flyers.
All right, so speaking of big flyers...
I've been looking forward to seeing what black has in store. I love black.
We start off black with Archfiend of Ifnir. 3 black for a 5/4 demon with flying at rare. This was one of the first spoilers. I think this is the buy a box promo. It's got cycling too, so if you can't afford 3 black, you can pitch it. But if you get him down, whenever you cycle or discard another card, put a -1/-1 counter on each creature your opponents control.
Oh.
This is gross and disgusting.
I love him.
This is definitely a shoe-in for the Atraxa Commander deck.
I'm going to call him Alistair.
Alistair?
Alistair, the Archfiend of Ifnir.
All right.
Doesn't he look like an Alistair?
Oh, I don't know. Let's Yeah, okay. We can call him Alistair.
He's awesome.
So along with Blue's big cycling and discard theme, it seems black fits right into that. So a blue-black deck looks like it could come together. And again, you can cycle him if you can't cast him.
I could build a deck. Blue-black, cries and skies. Because the opponent will be crying because of all the mean things you're doing.
All right, so we obviously like him. Let's move along.
All right.
Baleful Amonkhet. Amonkhet? Okay. It's a crocodile demon. That's interesting. It looks like a big green beast.
I thought it was a dog. Black. I was going to name it Fido.
2 and a black for a 4/3 with lifelink.
Oh.
It's an uncommon. When Baleful Amonkhet enters the battlefield, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature you control.
Blue-black, throw it on the crab.
So, yeah. This is what we were talking about with -1/-1 counters on your stuff. This is a theme in black and green. And it's supposed to go on him, like a 3/2 lifelink for 3 seems fine. But if you've got something else that you don't care about, throw it on there and you've got a bigger beefer.
It really makes those vanilla, 2-drop 5 or 6 butt creatures that are just generic a lot better.
Or if you're in black-white and have something like a 2/2 with Embalm, you can use the initial creature to soak up a bunch of -1 counters, and then you'll be able to get it back.
Yeah.
So I like this thing quite a bit. I imagine I would pick it highly. It seems pretty good. 4/3 isn't as good as well, I don't know. It's a little better than a 3/4. Although with lifelink, I think I'd prefer a 3/4 than a 4/3, just because it'll block better. It'll
stick around longer.
Attack better. But
I'm attacking with
still
it,
fine.
so yeah.
Blighted Bat, 2 and a black for a 2/1 flyer. You can pay 1 to give it haste until end of turn. It is a zombie bat at common.
Wah, wah.
So a 2/1 flyer for 3 is below rate. I mean, it's still okay. Waiting to give it haste, so paying 4 mana for a 2/1 flyer with haste. I mean, whatever. If you have to play it, you will. It's not fantastic.
No.
There are much better flyers in this set, and because there are so many flyers, having a random small flyer is a lot worse.
Agreed.
Bone Picker. 3 and a black for a bird. Looks like a buzzard to me. A 3/2 for 4. Bone Picker costs 3 less to cast if a creature died this turn.
Oh, so sweet.
It also has Death Touch. So it's a 3/2 flying Death Touch for black.
Yeah, so this is the better creature flyer in black you were just talking about?
Yeah, this is a lot better. I mean, the other thing, what was it called? The Blighted Bat does block and kill this. So
that is true.
But this is a good way to fend off any of those huge flyers.
Yeah, Death Touch is just great. Pretty sweet that way.
It will disincentivize your opponent from blocking it.
It also incentivizes you to get a small creature down and swing for tradesies early game, because then you can drop him for 1 on turn 2.
Black often likes doing that, so yeah, seems good.
I really like him.
Bontu the Glorified. Here
the
we
god.
have the god in black. 2 and a black for a 4/6. Seems like a real good rate. With Menace and Indestructible.
Okay.
He can't attack or block unless a creature died under your control this turn. That's not great. That, as far as abilities go, having to sack your own stuff is a fairly high cost. But, as we've seen in black, there is something of a trend this direction so far. If you pair it with white, you've got all the embalm stuff.
Yep.
If you
can get rewarded very handsomely for sacking your creature.
Yep.
The god actually encourages you to do that.
So he has an ability, 1 and a black, and sack another creature. Scry 1. Each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life.
That seems like a pretty fair trade to get a 4/6 Menace Indestructible creature online.
It depends on what you're sacrificing. I mean, yes. I'm not sure how much the toughness matters on him since he's got Menace anyway. I mean, he can't just be killed by 2 bears. Oh, and he's also indestructible, so it's not like damage is going to kill him.
No.
It's just how many times can you sack your own thing to have him attack? And that's really the question.
If you're running this, I'm going out on a limb and assuming that tokens are going to be a thing more so than we've seen thus far. And if you're in any sort of tokeny kind of thing, would you sack a token to scry 1?
It depends on the token.
And would you to loot
like a 2/2 zombie? Maybe. A 1/1 cat? Yeah, but 3/3 beasts?
Or your embalm, your 2/2 embalmer that you have already put a -1/-1 counter on.
Yeah,
and then you sack him, get him back.
That's where this is good. So this is definitely my second to least favorite of the gods. I'd still pick it and play it because it's a mythic and I like to play with mythics. But I don't know. You really need to craft the deck where this is going to be good. Just like with the blue one, you really need to craft the deck where it's going to be good. Whereas the white one is just probably going to be good. You know?
And me, the optimistic black player, is crafting in my brain all of the amazing things I'm going to be able to do with him.
Oh, in constructed for sure.
Well, no, I'm even talking about limited, how to draft around it to make it work well. Now, we'll see if that actually happens or not, but I want to see what the rest of the black creatures hold, because if there's a lot of low-cost, mediocre, okay creatures that I'm not going to care about pitching for value, so let's move on.
Cursed Minotaur. This was another one of the early spoilers, and I like the art here. Aside from Minotaurs not really fitting in Egypt, we have 2 and a black for a 3/2 with Menace at common.
He seems fine.
He seems fine.
I like a good Menace, and I love Minotaurs.
For 3, I mean, blocking him with 2 things, he's probably going to kill one of them. And he might just kill both of them.
And he looks pretty badass.
Yeah, he looks a little bit, I don't know, biblical. Doomed Dissenter. Oh, I loved this guy as soon as I saw his name. Doomed Dissenter is 1 and a black for a 1/1 human at common. And when he dies, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token.
God fodder? Is that what I hear you say?
Yes.
We're going to draft all of these to feed to my god and turn them into 2/2s?
Okay, that is definitely an option. He's a riff on Doomed Traveler from Innistrad.
Yeah.
And a 1/1 flyer versus a 2/2 ground crawler seems about the same rate. So I wonder, I don't know. Doomed Traveler was single white. This is 1 and a black. Less good, but still playable. I think this is definitely playable.
He has some utility going on. So.
A little bit. Dread Wanderer.
Ooh.
Black for a 2/1. At rare, Zombie Jackal. He enters the battlefield tapped, so you can't attack with him on turn 1 anyway. Big deal. For 2 and a black, you can return him from your graveyard to the battlefield, but activate this ability only when you would cast a sorcery, and only if you have 1 or fewer cards in hand. This is there for the red-black deck, the Hellbent deck.
Explain what that means for those who don't understand.
So Hellbent was a mechanic from original Ravnica block. It was the Rakdos mechanic, the red-black mechanic, where your creatures or spells got bonuses if you had no cards in hand. So if you are Hellbent, it means you have no cards in hand. So with 1 or fewer cards in hand, you can activate this ability and bring back your 2/1, which can hopefully help make some interesting blocks and trade off for something bigger, maybe. I don't know. It seems fine. It seems really good in that aggressive deck.
And the art. Oh, he's so beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. Next we have Dune Beetle, 1 in a black for a 1/4.
There's another one of those big butts that will be a nice target for those -1 counters.
Yep. And blocks real well on its own. Having that 1 power is so much better than walls. You know? Now, there aren't a lot of X1s in this format, but there are enough that I think it's going to matter. So, he's just fine.
Yep.
Festering Mummy is a 1/1 for black. When Festering Mummy dies, you may put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. This has been printed before as a goblin. I can't remember its name. Basically, it trades as a 2/2. Like, if it's blocks or is blocked by a 2/2, it can kill it. Or, if you want more god fodder, you then get to put a -1 counter on.
He's the god fodder.
Okay, moving on. Gravedigger. Hey! Welcome back, Gravedigger.
Dig.
So this is another thing to facilitate that god getting value, because when it enters the battlefield, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand.
And I really like the new art for him. He's very flavorful.
So he's 3 in a black for a 2/2. Again, that's not great, but the ability makes up for it.
And he's a zombie, so that might matter.
Drawing you a card, and yes, he's a zombie, so that's decent. We should really go back and do a zombie count at the end of this whole thing. Grim Strider is 3 in a black for a 6/6 horror at uncommon. He gets -1/-1 for each card in your hand. That's not going to fit in many blue-black decks.
Nope.
That's going to fit in a whole lot of red-black decks.
Yep. He seems quite at home there.
He seems pretty good. Even if you have 2 cards in hand, he's a 4/4 for 4, which is great. 3 cards, he's a 3/3 for 4, which is fine. So, I would probably run one. You just have to wait until, you aren't going to, draw 3 or whatever.
And I know we're not talking about flavor here, but it has very evocative flavor text, which you should read when you have time. It's quite interesting.
We'll definitely be doing something on that later. Horror of the Broken Lands is 4 and a black for a horror at common. So it's interesting because horrors I thought were more uncommon and rare things, but now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, I think Dinrova horror was an uncommon, so common horrors might be something that I've just missed. But he's a 4/4 for 5, and whenever you cycle or discard another card, Horror of the Broken Lands gets +2/+1 until end of turn.
That's not nothing.
So he can attack as a 6/5, maybe. And again, cycling can be done at instant speed, so there's always the threat of that. And that's not nothing. Also, if you can't cast him, you can cycle him for a black. Cycling on creatures like this are super valuable. I like this card a lot. I probably more than I should, so I'll be wary of that. But yeah, I think it's very cool. Lord of the Accursed. Here we go. Zombie Lord time. 2 and a black for a 2/3 zombie at uncommon. Other zombies you control get +1/+1. So all of those other zombies, including
those white zombies,
all of those white zombies, you can pay 1 and a black and tap him to give all zombies menace.
And he also
until end of
is
turn.
a 2/3.
Yup.
He seems almost too good to be uncommon, given how much zombie stuff is in the set so far. But,
right? He's definitely a build around uncommon.
But 2/3 for 3 is fine to begin with. Then you throw all the other stuff in there, and he's just really good.
And considering he is uncommon, you could potentially pick up 2 in a draft. You could see that happening. I mean, I think he fits right into that uncommon slot, because if he just gave other zombies menace, he'd be rare material, but you have to pay for it.
We are probably looking at the beginnings of a new standard deck, I'm sure, as well.
I would hope so. Standard really needs a shake-up, and I'm hoping there's enough new in this set to do it.
To get rid of Mardu vehicles, or at least give them a run for their money.
I'm more worried about the Saheeli combo. But anyway, moving along. This guy is great. Miasmic Mummy. 1 and a black for a 2/2. When Miasmic Mummy enters... Zombie Jackal, by the way, at common. When Miasmic Mummy enters the battlefield, each player discards a card. There we go with that Hellbent deck again. I don't care if I don't have any cards in hand about discarding one.
He can be strong in the deck that wants him, and facing off against like a blue, whatever, not black, deck that could really tick off your opponent and affect you far less. But I think you need to pay attention to what deck you're in with him.
I don't like him on turn 2 as much as I like him maybe on turn 5 with a 3-drop. You know? Pitiless Vizier. 3 and a black for a 4/2 Minotaur Cleric at common. So we have confirmation. Viziers are clerics. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, Pitiless Vizier gains indestructible until end of turn.
Nice. That's going to mess with combat math.
I like this cycling as a combat trick theme that's going on, because it's always the threat of these things that is better than actually doing it. I mean, not if you actually have to do it, but your opponent might just not block because they're going to be worried about killing or losing their creature. On the other hand, if you don't have anything to cycle, he does die to a bear. So
yeah, there is that.
But I think he's
a 4/2 for 4 is...
He's fine.
Yeah, I think he's okay.
Plague Belcher. 2 and a black for a zombie beast at rare. 5/4 menace for 3. That's too good. When Plague Belcher enters the battlefield, put 2 -1/-1 counters on target creature you control. Alright. So a 3/2 for 3 with menace. That seems more reasonable. Whenever another zombie you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. So, instead of a 3/2, you could just have your 5/4 and put those 2 -1/-1 counters on, whatever the 2/2 that we just saw. 2 or 3 cards back. Go rewind the video. It dies, your opponent loses 1 life, and you get to swing the next turn with a 5/4 with menace.
Seems okay.
On turn 4, ostensibly. That seems gross.
Pretty gross.
Ruthless Sniper. 1/2 for black. At uncommon, it's a human archer. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, you may pay 1. If you do, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. Interesting. Interesting.
Kind of like a pinger, but
Kind of. It's not like tap to ping, but again, if you're going to be cycling a lot, you have to pay for it. I don't know, there could be some value there. Again, it's a 1-drop, and I don't know if it's going to be good enough. You know?
I honestly think it's going to depend on your deck. If you're building around a god that you want to have stuff that you don't mind losing, then sure.
I think this is another late-ish pickup.
Yeah, even though it's an uncommon.
Yeah. Soul Stinger.
Ooh.
Scorpion Demon.
That's
3
specific.
and a black for a common Scorpion Demon. A 4/5. When Soul Stinger enters the battlefield, put 2 -1/-1 counters on target creature you control. When Soul Stinger dies, you may put a -1/-1 counter on target creature for each -1/-1 counter on Soul Stinger. So this is real interesting, because you can play it as a 2/3 that when it dies, you deal basically 2 to something. And that seems fine.
You can also bring him down, putting the 2 -1/-1 counters on him, and then any of your other stuff that you have that comes down and puts -1 counters on, you can kind of stack them on him. And then use him for bigger removal. Use him as like layaway removal.
So like just keep ticking him up
Down.
down
Until he dies.
till you put 5 counters on something big. That seems pretty good. And he's a common, so you could get multiples of them and then put the counters all on the 1. That seems strong. All right.
I like to think outside the box.
Wasteland Scorpion. 2 and a black for a 2/2 with Death Touch.
Yes, please.
Yep, that's totally fine. Now, what's weird about this card is it has cycling. And I don't know whether I'm ever going to want to cycle this card.
I think the only time I can ever see myself cycling that card is if I'm running 2 colors and I don't have my second land. If I'm running a red-black deck and I can't get my black, cycle him, maybe get a land.
The other time I can see cycling him is when you're in combat and want all those cycling matters.
Triggers, yeah, sure.
So there are times, but a 2/2 Death Touch for 3 seems real
It's really
good.
good by itself. And it's common, which...
So the cycling is just kind of added value, I guess. I like it. I like it a lot. I don't think I like it first pick, but I like it enough to pick it up if I already think I'm going black. So what do you think of black?
I'm excited for black.
Yeah?
Black seems really sweet.
Black and blue?
I think I'm probably going to want... I haven't seen red yet.
You're going to want the black-red
I think I'm going to want black-red.
I like the black-white deck. I think I really want to play black-white.
The zombies are definitely something I want to try out.
Anyway, I think it looks pretty sweet. Onward.
Right. 2 red. On-Crop Crasher. 2 and a red for a 3/2 Minotaur Warrior at uncommon. Another Minotaur. Do you think there's going to be a little sub-theme going on in here?
Well, not to spoil anything, but there is a Minotaur Lord later in the set. So.
Oh, I love Minotaurs. It has haste. Another one of my favorite mechanics. You may exert on Crop Crasher as it attacks. When you do, target creature can't block this turn.
Okay, so it's a, what is that, Falter? Target creature isn't all creatures, so that's, it's going to be one thing.
Pick their thing that's going to kill him.
But this is similar to Goblin Heel Cutter, which was very, very strong.
Oh, so good, yeah.
Yeah, seems great.
Comes
down with haste on turn 3. Seems good.
Battlefield Scavenger. 1 and a red for a 2/2 Jackal Rogue at uncommon. You may exert Battlefield Scavenger as it attacks. When you exert a creature, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card.
This is interesting. So his exert ability actually doesn't do anything. He just does something when you exert any creature. That's weird. I like it. It's cute.
But it counts for him too, I'm assuming, whenever you exert a creature. So
yes.
it counts for him.
But he doesn't just get something when he exerts.
No.
It's something else.
He's cool because he will also make all of your other exerters get a little added bonus there for you if you want it.
All right. Well, 2/2 for 2 is perfectly fine. And that bonus, what is it called? Rummaging? Also notable, discarding a card seemed to matter in both black and blue. So there's some crossover there.
Bloodlust Inciter is 1 red for a 1/1. It's a human warrior, and you can tap him. Target creature gains haste until end of turn.
Interesting. So I think this is a 1-drop that I actually might want to play. The problem with 1/1s for 1 is that they get outclassed so quickly that 1 damage isn't worth a card. But a 1/1 that gives all of your other creatures haste...
Target creature.
Yeah, but you're only dropping 1 creature per turn.
That is true.
Generally.
Hopefully, yeah.
So, I mean, hopefully more, but he's giving whatever you want haste. That seems pretty powerful. Potentially very powerful.
And there are things to do with him if you're running red-black anyway. So, yeah, he seems a little better than...
I think I might run one.
See how it goes?
In an aggressive deck, absolutely.
Blood Rage Brawler.
Oh, that's a pretty Minotaur.
1 and a red for a 4/3 Minotaur Warrior at uncommon. When he enters the battlefield, discard a card. But in this, I think in the deck that you want to run him in, that is not a downside. It's probably an upside.
He slots into a Kitchen Table Madness deck, that's for sure.
I mean, we're going to see when we get to the Red God that having something else to discard your hand is not nothing.
Yeah, I don't like just having to discard a card. If it was something that I could get value out of, that's fine. But a 4/3 for 2 is very powerful.
Yeah, I'm running them for sure. In an aggressive deck, that's just sweet.
So you'd probably want to pitch, what, a land? All right. Okay.
Combat Celebrant. 2 and a red for a 4/1 human warrior at Mythic. If Combat Celebrant hasn't been exerted this turn, you may exert it as it attacks. When you do, untap all the other creatures you control, and after this phase, there is an additional combat phase.
Huh. So he's not going to untap. And if he is vigilant or untaps some other way, you cannot exert him again. But if you've got 2 of them, he's not legendary, so you can chain those together. Interesting. A 4/1 for 3 is probably going to die the first time he attacks. But potentially very powerful.
Yeah.
And if there's anything to put toughness on him, I think I really like that.
Yeah.
Oh, worth mentioning for the discard a card on the Blood Rage Brawler, if you have no cards in hand, you can still play him.
Yeah.
You discard no card. That's perfectly fine. So when you're already hellbent, this seems very strong.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think of Combat Celebrant?
He's really interesting. As a red aggro player, having the ability to have an additional combat phase is kind of interesting.
We've had cards, like even there was a mythic in Aether Revolt that did it for 6 or 8 energy.
Yeah, from what I understand, it wasn't very...
It didn't happen very often.
Yeah.
And this one, you can do that. Mm-hmm. You can just... The turn you attack with him, you can do that. Mm-hmm. So, at least you'll get it once.
Yeah.
Oh, sounds interesting.
Desert Cerodon. It is 5 and a red for a 6/4 beast at common with cycling for red. Again, this is one of those creatures that a vanilla 6/4 for 6, yeah. But the cycling makes it that much better that I might run it in a less aggressive red shell, you know?
Yeah, and it's also a potential card that you could discard to the other things. Like, if you need a big power thing to finish off your curve, that's fine. I don't think most aggro red decks are going to get to 6 mana like this, so more just cycling it or pitching it to other things, but you know, you never know. It's nice to have something that you can finish the late game with in an aggro deck if you need to, so that's not...
It gives it a little bit of pivotability.
Yeah.
Emberhorn Minotaur. More Minotaurs. Is 3 and a red for a 4/3 Minotaur warrior at common. You may exert Emberhorn Minotaur as it attacks. When you do, it gets +1/+1 and gains menace until end of turn.
So it attacks as a 5/4 with menace. That seems pretty strong.
At common, especially.
Yeah.
That seems really good.
A 4/3 for 4 is fine. I'd play one of these if I were going Minotaurs. If not, take him or leave him.
Fair enough. Flameblade Adept. 1 red for a 1/2 Jackal Warrior at uncommon. He has menace. And whenever you cycle or discard a card, Flameblade Adept gets +1/+0 until end of turn.
Why no Jackal Pup?
I don't know. I'm sorry for you. Maybe next set.
Okay.
He could be in next set.
A 1/2 with menace is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But cycling or discarding to give him +1 is still only kind of mediocre.
Yeah.
But he's a 1-drop, and there's a lot of power in a 1-drop having menace, because, you know, even when they drop their first creature, they can't block.
Yep.
So in an aggressive deck, I see that being a nice mid-pack pickup.
It seems okay. Glorybringer. 3 red for a 4/4 dragon at rare. It has flying and haste. I'm sold so far.
4/4 flyer with haste.
You may exert Glorybringer as it attacks. When you do, it deals 4 damage to target non-dragon creature an opponent controls. Oh my gosh, sign me up.
Boom. So
he's a mic drop.
Yeah. He does his damage whether you get through or not. Like, well, he does his damage to something, and that will hopefully help him get through.
Yeah.
If they've got 1 flyer and it's like a 3/6 or a 2/6 or whatever, this is going to kill it, because they're going to, if they block, it'll just deal 8 to it.
Yep.
If they don't want their thing to die, then they're taking 4 from it.
I like this guy.
Yeah.
He seems really strong.
This is the thing I want to give vigilance.
Yep.
So much. Alright.
Next. Harsh Mentor. 1 and a red for a 2/2 at rare. He's a human cleric. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of an artifact, creature, or land on the battlefield, if it isn't a mana ability, Harsh Mentor deals 2 damage to that player. Harsh indeed.
So this is interesting. There's been a lot of talk about this card that I've heard. If it's not a mana ability, so mana abilities means like tap to generate mana, or pay a colorless to get a blue or a black or whatever. Like, those are mana abilities. Abilities that generate mana. If it's not one of those, if it's a pay 2 colorless to tap or untap target creature, that's not a mana ability. And so this Harsh Mentor would deal 2 damage to the player who tries it.
Oh, so this helps hose tappers and such.
It hoses, well, not really hoses, but it deals damage to anyone who's trying to fetch.
It makes you think twice.
Yeah.
How much is this really worth to you?
It's a lot of value on a 2/2. So I like this guy. Probably pick him up early, first pick.
He's also going to be a lightning rod for anybody who has those sorts of things that matter to them. They're going to be using their removal on him, which is also not nothing.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Here we are.
Hazaret the Fervent. 3 and a red for a 5/4 legendary creature god at Mythic.
Look at that sky.
Yep. He's indestructible.
She's indestructible.
She is indestructible and has haste. She cannot attack or block unless you have 1 or fewer cards in hand. But like the other god, she helps you out a little bit. 2 and a red, discard a card. She deals 2 damage to each opponent.
So, okay, because it's a cost, I believe you have to discard a card. You can't just pay 2 and a red and, oops, I don't have a card. So you have to, like, hold back a land or something to pitch to activate that ability. It's a way of getting extra cards that you don't want to cast out of your hand.
So she can be online? Yeah.
Now, haste is sort of strange here because it's not useful probably the turn she comes down because she can't attack or block.
I think if you get her in hand later game when if you're top decking her, suddenly that becomes very relevant. You can suddenly drop her and swing in.
5/4 for 4 also isn't terribly above what you'd expect.
No.
It's fine, but it's no 6/6 for 4 or what some of the other ones. What's it? 5/5 flyer for 3. You know. Of course, it is easier to attack with her than with some of the other gods. Still, I'd say she's middle of the pack for me, or middle of the road for gods. I'd still first pick her because I like to play with rares.
I love her. Yeah, I think she speaks to me.
But I think if there was something just straight up better in the pack, I'd probably take that. She's not my favorite god. We're getting there in the next color.
Yeah. Heart Piercer Manticore. Oh, isn't he a thing?
Look at that.
2 red for a 4/3 Manticore at rare. When Heart Piercer Manticore enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice another creature. Hey, there's another sack thing. When you do, Heart Piercer Manticore deals damage equal to that creature's power to target creature or player. And it embalms for 5 and a red.
Interesting. So sack another creature. You can't just fling it and then embalm it.
No, but you can fling anything else.
I like fling. I like fling on creatures. That's basically what this is.
That's a 4/3 for 4, which is...
And it's a 4/3 for 4, which is fine.
And you get the embalm for later game. A little longevity there.
A 4/3 for 6 that you don't have to spend a card on is also fine.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's going to be really annoying for your opponent. That's a nice token, too. Nice. All right. Hyena Pack.
Hey, is this the first vanilla creature we've had in red?
I think so. 2 red for a 3/4 creature hyena at common.
Sure.
With flavor text, and that's it.
Why not? This is not going to be a high pick. This will just be...
filler if you need something.
Yeah.
Manticore of the Gauntlet.
This is interesting. Let me go back. Okay, so they're sort of tiger manticores.
They're beautiful. 4 and a red for a 5/4 Manticore at common. When Manticore of the Gauntlet enters the battlefield, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature you control. Manticore of the Gauntlet deals 3 damage to target opponent. That seems okay.
Okay, so unpacking that. Those are 2 separate clauses, so that's fine. It does both of those things. Target creature A. Okay. Sorry, I had to do the counting.
So let's pretend you do not have another creature on the battlefield when you cast this. Can you not? What does the rules say?
Oh, then you put the -1/-1 counter on this.
Itself? Yeah. Okay.
And it deals 3 damage to target opponent. So that seems good. At common, a 5/4 for 5 that bolts your opponent to the face. I like that.
This is going to be one of those sets, I think, where you really have to be paying attention to the cards you have in hand and what they do. Because there are so many little play off one another. Like, do I have something here that if I kill it, it will give me a benefit? So maybe I put the -1/-1 counter on that creature. And there's a lot of little shenanigans. That
Sequencing is going to be important. Yeah.
Minotaur Sure Shot. 2 and a red for a 2/3 Minotaur Archer. He has reach.
He looks like such a dandy.
I like him.
I'm a dandy Minotaur.
So he has reach, which is probably relevant in a set full of flyers. It has pay 1 and a red. Minotaur Sure Shot gets +1 +0 until end of turn. So you can pump your extra mana into that.
This seems like a green card to me. But
it really does. But
I know they're moving reach into red secondary, and it does have fire breathing.
It's very flavorful, though, because it's an archer, so it's just like pinging, shooting those flyers out of the sky.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Although it doesn't ping, it does have to block, and if it's most of the flyers we've seen, 3 damage is going to kill it. But I like it fine. Yeah. Sure.
Well, it says right in the flavor text, those wings are no advantage. I will pin them to the ceiling of the Hekma.
I'm assuming Hekma is the city thing. Okay.
All right. Neff Crop Entangler. 1 and a red for a 2/1 human warrior at common with trample.
Oh.
Are you laughing at
a 2/1 with trample?
Yeah. You may exert Neff Crop Entangler as it attacks. When you do, it gets +1/+2 until end of turn.
Aha.
So it's a 3/3 with trample. That's a little more.
This seems like a great target for any auras you might have, or pump spells, or anything. I like the exert mechanic. Taking a turn off in an aggressive deck is not what you want to do. So I feel like the way it's going to play out is mostly going to be you exert one thing at a time and keep up a barrage of damage, and then on your last alpha strike you exert everything and hope to kill your opponent.
Yeah. What I find interesting too is, yes, there is trample in red, but that's a generally seen in green. So this is the second time in a row here we've seen
these are both secondary abilities in green,
yeah. Just not as common.
In red. Yeah, not as common as in green, but they're both sort of red-ish.
Nimble Blade Kenra. 1 and a red for a 1/3 Jackal Warrior at common. It has prowess. Just prowess.
We've seen this card a few times, and
she's beautiful.
It was a vampire the last time, I think. Yeah, it's fine. A 1/3 that becomes a 2/4. Sure. Whatever. Not exactly what I want in my aggressive decks, but maybe in the blue-red spells deck.
Yeah. Pathmaker Initiate. 1 and a red for a 2/1 human wizard at common. Tap. Target creature with 2 or less can't be blocked this turn.
Power? 2 or less? Okay. Target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. I guess if you've got something that has an ability when it hits the opponent,
sure,
that could be sweet, but
sure.
And again, it's a piker, so whatever.
Yeah.
Mid-pack.
Yeah. Soul Scar Mage. 1 red for a 1/2 with prowess. If a source you control would deal non-combat damage to a creature an opponent controls, put that many -1/-1 counters on that creature instead.
Interesting. Okay, so a 1/2 with prowess I already like quite a bit, because that is what you want in an aggressive deck. It's a 1-drop that potentially does 2, maybe 3 damage on later turns when it attacks. If a source you control would deal non-combat damage, so a burn spell, a fight card, meaning the creature deals its damage, it grants that damage a sustained quality. Like, instead of damage, it's -1 counters. I like that a lot.
In red, you know why I like it? Because if you've got something like, not in this set per se, but like a magma spray that only does 2 damage, and they've got this big 6/6 flyer.
I believe magma spray is in this set.
Oh, is
Spoilers.
it? We'll see. So this allows you to put that 2 damage permanently on the creature.
It makes your early game burn spells into late game value, and I like that.
I think that's
lot.
really cool.
All right.
Thresher Lizard. 2 and a red for a 3/2 lizard at common. Thresher Lizard gets +1/+2 as long as you have 1 or fewer cards in hand. Well, you're in the right color, dude.
Yeah. Does this feel like, I don't know, what was it, Sigilled Skink from Theros to you a little bit?
A little bit.
That seems good. Like, a 3/2 for 3 is already okay. When you're Hellbent, it's a 4/4, and yeah, that's fine.
Limited, I think it's going to be fine.
True Heart Twins.
Ooh, 4 and a red for a 4/4 Jackal Warrior. I guess it would be Jackal Warriors. At uncommon. You may exert True Heart Twins as it attacks. Whenever you exert a creature, creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. Ooh, interesting.
This is one of those, can we please stop having 2 creatures in the artwork cards? This is another one that its exert doesn't actually do anything.
No,
but
it affects all your other exert creatures and itself.
The exert gives you an anthem. I like that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
I like that a lot. It can attack as a 5/5, or a 4/4 for 5 is fine.
Warfire Javelin.
Javelineer.
Wow, that's a mouthful. I didn't read the red before I read them.
Javelineers have traditionally been in white in Magic,
I
but
see.
yeah.
3 and a red for a 2/3 Minotaur Warrior at uncommon. When Warfire Javelineer enters the battlefield, it deals X damage to target creature an opponent controls, where X is the number of instants and sorcery cards in your graveyard. We know what deck this is going in.
The red-blue deck, definitely.
Seems good.
So a 2/3 for 4 is underrate, but this is something where you want to count your instants and sorceries, because if this is an onboard lightning bolt, 3 damage to a creature, then that's good. That's solid. You're getting...
It's something that deck's going to want to have.
Yeah. You're basically, at that point, paying 2 mana for a creature and 2 mana for a lightning strike. And it's fine.
It's fine.
So what do you think of red?
I'm not disappointed. There are some really exciting cards. And more importantly, I'm seeing the synergy that I'm hoping for with the black.
Yeah, it seems like
the blue, for
a
that
fairly
matter.
synergistic in a simple way kind of set. Like, I will get there when we talk more about the holistic, the set as a whole. But I'm really enjoying the back to basics sort of feel. All right, now on to green. Bitterblade Warrior, 1 a green for a 2/2. Hey, look at that! The first green creature is a bear. Actually, it's a Jackal Warrior. At common, you may exert Bitterblade Warrior as it attacks. When you do, it gets +1/+0 and gains Death Touch until end of turn. 3/2 Death Touch, if you need it.
So he's a bear that you're going to attack more so than block with.
Yeah, well, normally you're attacking with bears when you can. But, yeah, a 2/2 for 2 is fine. And this adds just that little bit extra value. I'll scoop them up when mid-pack, mid to late pack. Definitely good curve fillers. Champion of Rondas. Ronas? Ronas. 3 and a green for a 3/3. Jackal Warrior, at rare. You may exert them to put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield.
Oh, man.
Huh.
Oh, man.
So, like, Ulamog, then.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Turn 5 Ulamog, that seems pretty strong in standard.
Oh, that's gross.
I'm not sure what to say about that. First pick?
Busted? Inconstructed?
Inconstructed, sure. In limited, I mean, it definitely means that you can drop the big thing in your hand.
Yeah, you're probably going to be wanting to put a few big things in your hand, in your deck. Yeah.
We'll see this theme in green too, but the problem with that is, of course, drawing the big things without having this guy.
Yep, absolutely.
Still, very, very good, and a 3/3 for 4 is just fine. Channeler Initiate. I love this card. I love this card so much. It is a 3/4 human druid for 1 and a green.
Wow.
So what does that tell us it's going to have?
Some sort of downside.
The downside is when it enters the battlefield, you put 3 -1/-1 counters on target creature you control.
Okay.
Now, this is one of the ones I don't mind putting the counters on it, because you can tap it and remove a -1/-1 counter from it to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool.
Oh.
This is probably one of my favorite cards in the set.
Oh.
I know this is what I like to do. It allows you to splash. It means that your mana elf gets bigger. It means late game when you don't need it, you can just put the counter somewhere else and you've got a 3/4 for 2.
It's really good.
Drop it post-combat and put the counter somewhere else. You've got a 3/4 blocker.
I just love the fact that it's a mana guy.
Yep.
And
now, it's only a mana guy if it has counters.
Yes.
But you can put counters from other things on it to keep getting that mana.
But even for, the 2 or 3 turns you need that mana for.
Before you drop your 5th land?
Yeah, and then you suddenly have a 3/4 that's sitting there. And, she seems great.
I love this card. Colossipede.
Oh my gosh. I love him. I love him.
This is a card I do not love.
No, but the art is fantastic. And the name.
Yes. It is a 5/5 for 4 and a green. So, that's fine.
It's fine.
It's a rando 5-drop.
But dude, it's exactly what it says it is. It's a colossal centipede.
Yeah.
There is no false advertising going on here.
Yep. Looks pretty gnarly.
What do you
I
think,
don't know
Salem?
what that, is that the... No, okay, it's not the channeler. But, whoever that human is, probably not going to...
Should probably run.
Live very long.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's a 23rd, 24th card, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
If you can't get a better 5-drop, this is fine.
Yep.
Crocodile of the Crossing. 3 and a green for a 5/4 crocodile with haste.
Ooh.
At uncommon. When Crocodile of Crossing enters the battlefield, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature you control. Sure.
Don't care.
You know what?
That's fine.
I could put that single -1/-1 counter back on my Channeler Initiate and get some more mana next
out
turn.
of it. Oh, yeah.
This seems better than a Colossipede, that's for sure. Defiant Great Maw.
It's a hippo. It
is a gnarly hippo. Look at them tusks on that hippo. 2 and a green for a hippo at uncommon. It is a 4/5, and when it enters the battlefield, you put 2 -1/-1 counters on target creature you control.
Okay.
Whenever you put 1 or more -1/-1 counters on Defiant Great Maw, remove a -1/-1 counter from another target creature you control.
Interesting. There's some flexibility there.
Yeah, a little bit. So you can kind of chain these together, I guess, and get them a little bigger. If you have multiples, you can put the counters from it on something else, and then the second one can put its counters on this one and remove one of those counters from something else, or it's flexibility. And it's got some fine power. Even at its base, 2/3 for 3 is whatever.
Yeah.
Exemplar of Strength. 1 and a green for a 4/4. I imagine it's going to, put 3 -1/-1 counters on target creature you control. Whenever Exemplar of Strength attacks, remove a -1/-1 counter from it. If you do, you gain 1 life. That seems interestingly repeatable. So it attacks as a 2/2 the first time. Because if you put the counters on it, then you remove 1 immediately and it becomes a 2/2. Next turn it's a 3/3, and then the turn after it's a 4/4, and you can reload it to keep gaining a little bit of life. That seems like a
pretty neat.
Solid way to get rid of those counters.
And I'm assuming you can dump counters from some of the other creatures we have already seen
onto it, yeah.
And turn it into life gain.
Giant Spider. It's back.
I was going to say, isn't this a reprint?
Oh, yeah.
New art?
Giant Spider is 3 and a green for a 2/4 with reach.
Yep.
It's solid, mid-pack playable. I have cut them from my deck. I have wished that I had one, so it fully depends on what your curve looks like and what you want to do.
In sealed, I would probably play one because there's going to be lots of flyers flying around.
And in this set, it seems well placed because, as we saw, with white, blue, and black, there are flyers.
Also, a 4 toughness with all of these -1/-1 counters needing to be placed. That is not
That's
nothing.
true.
So.
That's true. It could take a couple of -1 counters and then just be a wall.
Yep.
Greater Sandworm.
Boy, I'd hate to see the less great sandworm.
5
Or the greatest.
green for a 7/7. So 7 mana for 7/7. It can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. So it has to be blocked by big things.
And is there more?
There is, but what do you think of that?
This is the guy that I'm putting in my deck to go fetch and put onto the battlefield for no cost.
Well, you have to have him in hand.
Fair enough, but you have him in hand.
Okay.
Put him on the battlefield.
If you don't have your thing that puts big things on the battlefield, he does cycle for 2. So, again, this seems very good because I don't know if you can get to 7 in this format. I'm guessing in green you could.
Why it's so hard to kind of go over this without any context. But yeah, assuming you can get to 7.
Green is the color that you'll be doing it in. And if you can, or if you can't, you can just throw them away and get a card. And if you can get there but you're not there yet, then just throw them away and get a card. It seems like a pretty good late game play, though, to me. It's just a very big thing. Honored Hydra. 5 and a green for a Snake Hydra. Interesting. At rare, it's a 6/6 with trample.
Ooh,
6/6 for 6 with trample. That seems fine. It doesn't have any sort of Hydra ability, which is weird. Like, it doesn't have, I get bigger if this thing happens.
No, but it does have a really interesting thing happen when it dies. Not any more interesting other than the cost. I find the cost interesting. It embalms.
Yeah, so you're talking about the embalm when you want to bring it back?
It's cheaper than its casting cost, which we haven't seen much of.
No, we haven't seen any of. The best we've seen is equal cost. So it's a 6 mana 6/6 with trample, but when you embalm it for 4, 3 and a green, you get a 6/6 with trample. So if this ends up in your graveyard and you just cast it from your graveyard, or if you cast it and then attack with it a bunch of times and it gets killed, and you bring it back cheaper.
That
seems pretty
annoying.
cool.
And that trample is not... That's pretty
Nothing
important.
to snuff at.
Yeah.
This is another long type line. Token creature, zombie snake hydra. I wonder why it's a snake hydra.
I don't
Is
know.
there a snake lord that we haven't seen yet? I guess we'll find
know.
out. Hooded Brawler is next. It's a 3/2 for 2 and a green, Naga Warrior at common. And you may exert Hooded Brawler. If you do, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn.
Oh.
So if you need to break through your opponent's board, a 5/4 should do it.
Yeah.
For 3 mana. That's every other turn, but a 3/2 for 3 is already, mediocre. Having the onboard +2 seems pretty decent.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see what you kind of alluded to before, is people, snapping 2 or 3 of these up, and this turn I'll swing with these 2 and exert them, but this one I won't, and just switch them out as you go, so you're always exerting something.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to make interesting battles.
Mm-hmm. Initiate's Companion. You like the art?
Oh, it's so cute.
It's a 3/1 for 1 and a green. It's a cat.
It's
at
a
common.
kitty.
Whenever Initiate's Companion deals combat damage to a player, untap target creature or land. Ooh. So that seems pretty good. Untapping the land is probably not going to be relevant. Untapping the creature could be extremely so.
Oh, yeah.
It is combat damage, so it's not like getting in fights is going to, like fight cards or whatever, is going to affect it.
No, but it's going to make your opponent have to decide whether to block and lose their creature probably, or take the damage and allow you to untap your exert creature.
A 3/1 trades fairly well.
Mm-hmm.
So I like this card quite a bit.
Yep, I think that would go nicely in your green deck.
Manglehorn. 2 and a green for a 2/2 beast at uncommon. When it enters the battlefield, you may destroy target artifact. Artifacts your opponent's control enter the battlefield tapped. Now, I think this one is here pretty much just for constructed. There aren't a lot of artifacts in the set, and the ones that there are, I don't really care about. There are a couple, and we'll get there when we get there. But this seems like a pretty good sideboard play for a constructed green deck. Yeah. Naga Vitalist. 1 and a green for a Naga Druid, a 1/2.
She's pretty.
Excuse me. She is pretty. You may tap her to add to your mana pool 1 mana of any type that a land you control could produce.
Ooh.
So this will not fix you, it will only ramp you. Well, it'll fix you on your double. If you need double white or double green or whatever, it'll fix that. But it's not going to enable your splash. However, we've seen multiple things now that tap for mana that are creatures, so it looks like that 7/7 is probably not out of the question.
We've also seen things that can untap your creatures. So that could be a thing too.
I like this okay. I don't know. I wouldn't pick her highly. Owashra? Is that how you say that? Owashra
Yeah.
Cultivator. Green for an 0/3 human druid. For 2 and a green, tap and sack her. Search your library for a basic land card. Put it onto the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library.
But she will help with your splash.
This one will help with your splash. This one will block very well in the early turns. I would probably pick this one higher than the last. Your phone going crazy there? I'd probably pick this one up a little earlier because she will block early aggression and then she will go and get you a land later. Also, I don't know if just having things in your graveyard will matter in green, but it might.
And you may be in green something. I haven't seen any indication for mono decks yet.
No,
really.
Not really. Ornery Kudu. I'm just trying to puzzle out the picture in this card. Creature, antelope. Okay, so it's an antelope. 2 and a green for a 3/4 common antelope. When Ornery Kudu enters the battlefield, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature you control.
Sure.
Sure, so it's another 2/3 for 3. Or, this is one of those ones that I would expect possibly getting value off of the -1 by putting it somewhere you want it.
Like on your mana dude?
Yep, or on the hippo that'll take a -1 off of something else that you don't want it on. Yeah. Seems alright. Pouncing Cheetah.
Aw, pretty kitty.
It is a 3/2 for 2 and a green with Flash.
Oh, Flash. I love Flash.
A 3-power creature with Flash is pretty strong.
Yeah.
That 3 damage out of nowhere can take out some pretty good attackers.
And a 3/2 for 3 with Flash is
yeah,
really
a 3/2
nice.
for 3 is fine, and then with Flash, it's just so much better.
And at common.
Yep.
I also really like that. That's
Yeah,
cool.
watch out for these. If your
This is going to be
opponent
combat
has-
stuff that you need to pay attention to, yeah.
Yeah. Prowling Serpopard. If that is an awkward name, I don't know what is. 1 green for a 4/3 cat snake at rare. Prowling Serpopard can't be countered.
Okay.
Creature spells you control can't be countered.
Sign me up.
Yeah, that seems pretty strong. So I'll forgive the fact that it's a dumb card and play it.
Of course, we'll have to take a look at how much counter there is when we get there.
Right. We didn't see any creatures with Flash that countered things, but we'll see when we get there. It doesn't have Flash, so it's not like you can flash this in to counter a counter or anything.
No, but it's still a 4/3 for 3. I mean, granted, it's double green, but
Yep.
still, it seems
Still
pretty okay.
reasonably strong. Quarry Huller. 3 and a green for a 4/3 camel at common. When Quarry Hauler enters the battlefield, for each kind of counter on target permanent, put another counter of that kind on it or remove one from it.
Ooh.
That's an interesting clause. So, this is an interesting way to hose your opponents who have -1 counters on their things that they're hoping they can somehow deal with. So you can add -1 counters to your opponent's stuff, subtract -1 counters from your stuff. In Constructed, you can add energy or +1 counters or who knows what. I think I'm going to be putting this in some janky commander decks. I just haven't figured it out yet. And a 4/3 for 4 is fine.
Yep. And he's a camel.
Here we have my favorite of the gods. Ronus the Indomitable. 2 and a green for a 5/5 legendary creature god at Mythic. He has Death Touch and Indestructible. He can't attack or block unless you control another creature with power 4 or greater. Wow, that's a
Salem
tall
likes that.
order in green. 4 power? How many of the 3 drops have we seen had 4 power?
Yep.
And if for some reason you can't have a 4 power creature when you drop him on turn 3, well, for 2 and a green, he can give another target creature +2/+0 and trample
For
until
the
end of turn.
low price of 2 and a green, yeah, he seems really, really good.
So you drop your bear, then you drop Ronus,
Yep.
and then the next turn you pay 3 mana to make your bear into a 4/2 with trample and swing with a 5/5 with Death Touch.
Indestructible. Seems pretty sweet.
Seems good to me.
Salem likes it.
Definitely first pick. I will be taking this anytime I see it and going as mono green as I can.
Mm-hmm.
This is the reason for me to take all of the big green creatures.
Sure.
Moving right along. Scaled Behemoth. Ooh, Nelly, that's a big crocodile.
Oh, this is the guy. This is the guy.
4 green for an uncommon crocodile. It is a 6/7 with hexproof.
So, we were watching Loading Ready Run doing their pre-release today, and somebody had Scaled Behemoth and Nissa, and the opponent said, "You know what? It's the Scaled Behemoth that's the bigger problem than Nissa."
Well, sure, because it's a 6-power creature.
And it's hexproof.
And a 7 toughness creature.
It's just miserable.
You can see all of the amount of trouble that your opponent is going to have with it is what you're seeing from the humans in this piece of artwork.
Sure.
That being said, it is a 6-drop, so make sure that your deck can support 6, 7, 8 drops. But in green, I don't think that's going to be a problem.
No, he seems pretty good.
I'm excited. Also, I'm throwing one of those in my deck with Ronus the Crocodile God.
Yeah.
Okay. Shefet Monitor. Creature Lizard at uncommon. It is a 6/5 for 5 and a green. That seems okay.
Sure.
It's about on par with the hexproof crocodile, except it doesn't have hexproof. What it does have, though, is cycling. So for 3 and a green,
that's a lot to discard.
it's a lot to cycle it. I mean, if you already have 4, why not just wait till 6? Well, there's a big difference between 4 and 6.
That is true.
And if you're having trouble getting that 5th or 6th land to play all your stuff, you might value having something to cycle. And besides, when you cycle Shefet Monitor, you may search your library for a basic land or a desert card and put it onto the battlefield. Then shuffle your library. So, and you do this before you draw.
So that's before the draw for the cycling. Okay.
So you could play a 6/5 for 6, or you could pay 4 and get your 5th land and a card. That seems really strong to me. In fact, while I was doing the research for this set, I remembered an old card called Crozen Tusker, which was at one point banned because it cycled for 2 and a green, and you got a land and a card, and that was just clearly too good at the time. And the land you got went into hand, whereas Shefet Monitor puts the land onto the battlefield.
Untapped. Oh, man.
Now, if you've
Seems
already
good.
paid 4, you're probably not going to use that one for much, but it means you don't have to play it next turn. So you could play a 6th land. I like this. I think it's very strong. And if you don't need extra land, you can just then play it as a 6/5. Quite the option. Next we have Vizier of the Menagerie. Oh, I love this art.
This guy's a dude.
He's a Naga cleric at Mythic, 3 and a green for a 3/4. You may look at the top card of your library. You may do this at any time. So you can always just peek. I've played with cards that do this before, and it always feels unfair. I mean, I've played against opponents who have had cards that do this, and I'm like, hey,
That's so strong.
you can't look at the top... Oh, you can look at the top card. Well,
So strong, yeah.
okay, then. The real power in this card, though, is you may spend mana as though it were mana of any type to cast creature spells. Now, pay close attention to the wording there. Any type is not color. It means that you can play colorless mana costs on creatures with colored mana.
Okay.
You can play Eldrazi with your colored mana.
Did you mention the second line of text there about casting the top card of your library? I didn't hear you say that.
Oh, you know what? I completely missed it. Okay, so I went from one to the third. There's another clause. You may cast the top card of your library if it's a creature card.
So I think we call him Dr. Doolittle.
Yeah.
Because he talks to the animals.
So you look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, you just get to cast it if you want. Mm-hmm. And you can spend your mana as though it were mana of any color.
Type.
Any type, excuse me. My one big problem with this card is that it's not a legendary creature, because that seems like a goofball commander.
Mm-hmm.
Although I guess not, because he's only green.
Now, how...
Well played, Wizards. Well
yes.
played.
Now, how much is the last ability, the last bit of text, going to be relevant in this set alone, looking at limited play?
Looking at limited play, it means that this counts as a splash land for anything you want to splash that's a creature. You can play blue or black or red creatures with them.
Didn't you just finish saying that it was type, not color?
Yeah, but that includes all the colors.
Oh, okay.
There are 5 colors of mana. There are 6 types of mana.
Fair enough. That's the point I wanted to get out.
So yeah, you can basically cast any creature you want with the mana that you have available.
That's really
with
good.
With him on the field.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I think it's interesting. It's unique. I can't tell if the creatures there... I think those are mostly green creatures. The bird might be a white or a blue creature, but it's definitely a card I'm going to want to try to play with.
Mm-hmm.
Watchful Naga is our last green creature. 2 and a green for a 2/2 Naga wizard at uncommon. When you exert Watchful Naga, you draw a card.
Oh. Yeah, okay.
So a 2/2 that draws you a card when it attacks.
Doesn't even have to do damage.
You can only do that every other turn, of course, unless you make it vigilant or untap it in some other way.
To be fair, that would make you very, very greedy.
I like this quite a bit. There was some other creature, I don't remember, from Aether Revolt that... Oh, I think it was a Revolt draw card, and you just didn't get it enough of the time to make it playable. I think this one is highly playable. I think that the exert mechanic, even if you get to do it once and then trade your creature off, you've still gotten a lot of value. So I like this one. I would pick it up mid to early pack. On to the multicolored cards. We're starting with On Crop Champion. 2 green white for a human warrior at uncommon. 4/4 for 4 mana. You may exert On Crop Champion to untap all other creatures you control. Note, this is an uncommon, but it is not legendary or anything, so you can have multiples of these.
Oh, I like him.
So if you have 2 and you exert both, you untap both of them.
That's wild.
Which means you can do it every single turn. And all of your other exert stuff. So this is interesting because white and green go into one of the shards of Alara. 3 color combinations, and the other color in that combination is red, where we've seen most of the exert stuff. So it looks like Naya is being hinted at here for a deck archetype. And this is not the last time we're going to see that as a hint in the set.
And it's interesting because up until this point, I haven't really been considering green-white as a drafting color pair that I would be looking at.
No, I've thought about red-white, I've thought about green-red.
I've thought about blue-white and black and red. Yeah, so this is interesting.
This is definitely a build around uncommon. But even if you just have him in a solid green-white deck, it's fine. You don't even need the exert clause on the other creatures. Just being able to untap them, that's strong. Very strong. Aven Wind Guide.
Ah, there's the blue-white.
2 white-blue for a bird creature at uncommon. It's a 2/3 with flying and vigilance. Creature tokens you control have flying and vigilance.
Oh my goodness.
So all of those white embalmers,
those zombies,
all of those white cat tokens, all of those, yes,
flying,
potentially black,
life-linking cats. Oh,
all of your green tokens if you make any of the.
So if you
we
go
haven't
into
actually
Vance,
seen them yet.
Interesting. Oh man.
And he has Embalm for 4 white-green, which is 2 more than his mana cost, but it has the same clause.
That's pretty sweet.
Onward. Decimator Beetle. 3 black-green for an insect at uncommon. A 4/5. When Decimator Beetle enters the battlefield, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature you control. Whenever Decimator Beetle attacks, remove a -1/-1 counter from target creature you control, and put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature defending player controls.
So are we looking at a viable Golgari deck in Limited?
I think so. I think green and black
They
would pair
seem
very
like
well
they would,
together.
yeah.
And again, these 2-color uncommons, it seems like you could pick them fairly highly and build around them. Usually when you get 2-color uncommons, you kind of wait to see if the deck is open and then build that. But in this case, I think I would take any of these 3 things, first, second, or third pick, and heavily skew toward one of the 2 colors, and then hope that it's open.
Because this is black-green, we've seen some stuff in here that kind of can help fix a splash. So even if you're looking at black as just a splash for this card, I think you could potentially do it, because it seems like his, with all of the -1 stuff in green and black, it seems like it might be worth splashing. It seems like it could be pretty strong.
Enigma Drake. 1 blue-red for a beautiful hieroglyph-winged drake. It's a drake, and it's a star 4 with flying. Well, what's the star? Enigma Drake's power is equal to the number of instants and sorceries in your graveyard.
I'm getting a little teary over here. I'm so excited.
Something to note, instant and sorcery cards. So for the split cards, the
instant sorcery splits, it only counts as 1.
It only counts once because they are the same card.
Well, you see, this card for me, and this is where we'll mention briefly other formats, this is going right into my Keranos deck along with my Spellheart Chimera, because it's predominantly an instant and sorcery spell deck, but I like to have some creatures in there, and this fits right in. It's like the Spellheart, but has a bigger bum.
And a 4 toughness 3-drop in the air seems like it will be well positioned in that Spells Matter deck. Although this is one of the ones that I would wait to see if I was in that deck to pick up.
Sure.
Hapatra, Vizier of Poisons. This is a rare black-green for a 2/2. Human Cleric. You'd expect her to be a Naga, but nope, she's a human. Whenever Hapatra, Vizier of Poisons, deals combat damage to a player, you may put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. Whenever you put 1 or more -1/-1 counters on a creature, create a 1/1 green snake creature token with Death Touch.
So here's your legendary creature that can be a commander.
Seems like a pretty decent one, too. If you can put... what's the unblockable equipment? I can't think right now. But yeah, if you can make her unblockable in any way, that seems very strong. Now, she doesn't herself have Death Touch.
No.
She makes things with Death Touch. And she does put -1/-1 counters on creatures, but only if she gets through. So this is something that's going to be blocked very early. I don't know how good she's going to be in limited.
Okay, so here's my question.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of those fancy rules kind of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the first part ends with on a target creature, period.
Yep.
New clause.
Yep.
Whenever you put one or more -1/-1 counters on a creature, so does that not mean that any creature that comes in and puts a -1/-1 counter on something, she creates a snake?
Yes, it does.
She seems really good even if you don't swing through with her.
Well, all right then.
Whew. Thought
So
I was reading that right.
Are you saying you'd first pick her?
Oh, yeah. But I
Yeah,
liked
that's fair.
black, and black and green was one of my first loves, so yeah, totally.
That's fair. Onward to Honored Crop Captain. Red-white for a human warrior. A 3/2 for red-white. That's a little bit above rate, but we've seen 3/2s for red-white before. Whenever Honored Crop Captain attacks, other attacking creatures get +1/+0 until end of turn.
This is exactly what Boros wants to be doing.
Yup.
Oh, that's sweet. An
It's funny
onboard
because
anthem?
I didn't really see a Boros deck. Like, it was the thing that I would fall into. I'd prefer black-red
Yeah.
or red-green
Sure.
or black-white or white-green.
Yeah, Boros is always my go-to in sets I've never ever drafted, or in cube I've never drafted, because usually you can't go wrong with red-white aggressive.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
But I hadn't contemplated, again, I never contemplated red-white for this set.
This is another one that I think I would wait and see if I was in the deck or in one of these colors. If she came back to me on the wheel, I would snap her up. You could take her highly and then
Just
go
if
right
you don't
force
use
into
her.
the deck. Kenra?
Kenra.
Charioteer. 1 red-green for a 3/3 Jackal Warrior with Trample.
Oh.
Sweet. Other creatures you control have Trample.
Yep.
Sweet. Green is known for Trample, and red is a Trample ability too, but not all of your big things have Trample, and this will give it to them. This doesn't even have to attack to give Trample, but
It's pretty sweet.
You probably want it to attack anyway. Excuse me. Would you pick this early, or would you wait to be in the deck? I think I could probably pick this early. It's a 3/3 for 3.
A 3/3 for 3 is fine. In a color combination that
That
I
you're going to want to draft.
have interest in playing.
Okay.
So, sure.
Merciless Javelineer. Here we have another Minotaur Warrior. 2 black-red for a 4/2. Okay, that's fine. 2, discard a card. Pay 2 and discard a card. Put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. That creature can't block this turn. Well, that seems good. I don't know if a 2-color 4/2 for 4 is really all that impressive. The ability is nice.
I don't think I'm first picking it, but if I'm in red-black
Yeah.
and I see it, I'm grabbing it.
Yeah.
Because you can make it work in that deck.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree. Nihab the Worthy.
Oh, hello.
1 black-red for a 2/2 Minotaur Warrior, legendary creature Minotaur Warrior, with first strike. Other Minotaurs you control have first strike.
Oh,
As long as you have 1 or fewer cards in hand, Minotaurs you control get +2/+0. Whenever Neheb the Worthy deals combat damage to a player, each player discards a card. Which,
making
if
the
you
last-
don't have a card...
yeah, it's making the last creature look a lot better, too, if you have him, too.
Sure.
I see a constructed deck here somewhere.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
love Minotaurs.
I
There might be a
don't know
modern
if it's
Minotaur.
standard playable, but
No, but I think there might be a janky modern
I think
Minotaur.
the format you want is Commander.
Probably.
your Minotaurs.
Probably.
You should definitely look at building the Minotaur tribal.
Monkey's deck.
Well,
Or
this
Nehab. Yeah. he would
Neheb
work.
is now, the available commander for that deck.
That's true.
I'd also run a Mogis in it, but Yeah.
Seems good.
I would pick this first and then force that deck, but that's probably wrong. I don't know.
I would first pick this and hope that everything falls in, and if not, I will take it for my commander deck. And I'm not going to feel bad about it either.
That's fair. Alright. Samut, Voice of Dissent.
Ooh.
3 red-green for a legendary creature human warrior at Mythic. She is a 3/4 for 5 with Flash. And Double Strike.
Ooh.
And Vigilance.
Whoa.
And Haste.
Holy Hannah.
So haste on a flash creature is a little strange because part of the value of flash is casting end of turn so that you can surprise attack them the next turn.
Mm-hmm.
So haste is much the same purpose, but what this adds is versatility because you can flash this into block, and if you're blocking something with 3 toughness or less, then she just kills it with Double Strike.
Mm-hmm. And the next 2 lines are not nothing either.
Mm-hmm. So, other creatures you control have haste. Well, that's going to mean basically anytime you have a card in hand that's a creature, you're going to be attacking with it that turn.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly, she's got a white activated ability. So, in Commander, her color identity is Naya. You can play red, white, and green cards in that Commander deck.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're looking at this is a shard coloration. So, whereas 2 color decks looks like the thing in this set, we might see a little hint at shards in the next. The white ability is pay white and tap it to untap another target creature.
So here's my janky brain. This is what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
You have this in hand. You have your big red flyer on the field. You swing with it.
You mean the exert one?
Pick a creature.
Oh, okay. Any big flyer.
Or anything big. You
Okay.
swing. The next turn, your opponent thinks, I'm safe to swing with this creature because your big thing, especially flyer, is tapped. You can flash this in, and because it does have haste, you can pay the white, untap, block with your flyer, and kill the thing. So that's best case scenario, but I love those kinds of little...
So you're saying you have 6 open mana and they're attacking you? Yeah.
Later game.
I mean, if they don't see it coming with the 6 open mana, that is a very strong play.
Mm-hmm.
I think with 6 open mana, they're going to suspect something if you have cards in hand.
Yeah, it depends though, because if you're not in blue, I mean, they may think it's pump, but if your creatures are tapped, what are you going to pump?
Yeah.
So who knows? But I like to figure out why is there haste, you know? But there's a something that haste can be used for.
That is definitely a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. That looks strong. I mean, that looks stronger than the Red God to me.
Mm-hmm.
Looks stronger than the Black God.
Mm-hmm. And looking at it now and really internalizing the double strike, yeah, the only reason you would tap that to untap another creature is if they have some sort of amazing exert or they're a flyer.
Yeah.
Because 6 damage is pretty sweet.
And she also has Vigilance, which means that she can attack and then use her tap ability.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of value to unpack there.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's probably going to see some standard play.
Yeah.
All right, onward. Shadowstorm Vizier. This is a colorful card, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Blue-black for a 1/3 with flying, human cleric at uncommon. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, Shadowstorm Vizier gets +1/+1 until end of turn.
Yep, it seems well positioned in the color pairing.
I guess this is another one that if I was in that color pair, I would snap up for sure.
Mm-hmm.
A 1/3 flyer is fine.
It's not going to make me go into blue-black.
No.
But
if I'm already in blue-black...
I definitely would like to run one if I'm in blue-black.
Sure.
Just to get some value for your cycle, extra value.
Yeah. Temet, Vizier of Naktamun. You laugh. White-blue for a 2/2, legendary creature, human cleric, at rare. At the beginning of combat on your turn, Target creature token you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn, and can't be blocked this turn.
We will explain why I'm giggling in a moment. But looking at the creature,
This seems okay.
Yeah, it seems okay.
It's a 2/2. Again, I don't think I pick this highly. I think I pick this if I'm in the color pair. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature token. So it'll happen if you have a creature token. If you don't, it doesn't do anything.
Yep.
But being able to give one of your creature tokens unblockable seems decent. And it's also got Embalm for 3 white-blue. So you get a second one later game. So why is this funny?
Because I saw somebody wrote somewhere, the assumption is that this is kind of representative of King Tut. So
I don't think that's right.
Well, you know, people are people. And so what I saw written, somebody said, this should not be a 2/2. It should be a 2/10 at common. But terrible, right? I couldn't help but giggle anyway, because it's ridiculous.
Tut, tut, tut.
Oh, the internets.
Wayward Servant is white-black for a 2/2 zombie. It's uncommon, and whenever another zombie enters the battlefield under your control, you remember all those zombies earlier?
Yep.
And that zombie lord at uncommon?
Yep.
Each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life.
This is a gold card that I would be I would first pick this and go into zombies.
I would first pick this and then go into mono black and just like anything that said zombie.
Yep.
Yeah, again, this is probably wrong because you anytime you pick a 2-color card, you have a higher chance of not playing it. But there's definite upside to building around this.
Sure, and you don't just have to go mono black. You can grab the white embalm stuff. So yeah, seems pretty neat.
Next we have Weaver of Currents.
Ooh, in Simic.
1 green-blue for a 2/2 Naga Druid at uncommon. Tap to add 2 colorless to your mana pool.
Okay.
So this is Mega Ramp.
Yup.
I like this with anything that untaps creatures.
Sure.
Because Mega Ramp plus untapping it to Mega Ramp again seems like it could be potent.
Sure.
I don't think this is an early build around. I think this is something that you pick up when you know you want ramp. I don't mind splashing the blue for it if you're in a heavy green deck, because I think you can make that work. And especially at it's not trying to get you to well, if it can get you to 5 on turn 4 or 6 on turn 4, that seems good, but I think more what it's trying to do is get you to 7 or 8 on turn 5. And then you can cast one of those big stompy green things. Now in Constructed, I see it having a home. And I think this might end up seeing play in some cubes.
I could see that.
It just seems like a pretty good value creature. The rate of 2 extra mana on turn on your 3-drop.
In colors that can probably use it. So.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And finally, we have our single artifact creature, Watchers of the Dead. 2 mana for a 2/2 cat at uncommon. You can exile Watchers of the Dead to make each opponent choose 2 cards from their graveyard and exile the rest.
Not irrelevant.
I mean, kind of irrelevant, because they're going to choose to keep the ones that they want.
The 2 best, sure, but it can help prevent this huge overrun of things.
I guess.
It's a 2/2 for 2.
It's a 2/2
with a slight
for 2.
upside.
With a slight upside is, I think, the point. It is a cat, so if you've got the cat lord, that's relevant. And it is just a 2/2 for 2, so that's fine. It's a 2/2 for 2 that goes in any deck. I would pick this up when I need a curve filler.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So that is it for the creatures of Amonkhet. What did you think of the set so far?
I am pleasantly surprised. There seems to be, of course, keep in mind that I am an optimist at heart, and I like to find value where there probably isn't as much as I think there is, but there seem to be more good value than crappy cards, you know?
Yeah, I didn't see anything that I thought, whoa, well, this is
whatever you do, don't ever
unplayable.
play it. Yeah, no.
Which is refreshing, I guess, because usually there's just dead unplayable cards in somewhere, and none of these seemed like they were terrible.
Well, because
there are some that are better than others.
Sure, but they've given us lots of outlets to play not as good cards and get value out of them.
I like that everything seems to be in lanes, but not on rails.
Yeah,
you know, like
sure.
There are definite flavors of what the color pairs want to do. We will be back tomorrow with the non-creature spells and lands, the non-creature permanents and spells review. We will also have a little more information about the breakdown of power and toughnesses of the creatures and what removal will be good in the set, and things like that. So tune in to that tomorrow. But for now, thanks for watching this set review, or listening to it if you're listening to it on our podcast. Please like and share these videos, and subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate everyone who comes and checks out our videos and follows us and shares them around. So thanks very much for watching.
Yep, thanks for watching.